What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the video about Wednesday, the Netflix original series, as well as uh, Distrusting the Pilgrims. What did I say? Black Hole Suns, Hiding in the Light, Goth Indigenous Alliance, and of course, Christina Ricci's Thanksgiving speech from the OG Addams family. You know what I'm talking. I didn't want to get this video taken down or the tweet taken down for by our algorithmic and or Elon gods for incitement to violence. I don't want to play with that. So I didn't include the actual words from the speech, but if you know what I'm talking about, the speech during the Thanksgiving turkey and indigenous exchange play that is performed by Christina Ricci in the original or one of the earlier Addams family. You know what I'm talking about. There's an entire song by I think it was Tribe Called Red, but it was a song that's called "Burn Your Village to the Ground." Never mind. I just said it. Anyways, so yeah, we'll be talking about Wednesday though, and a few other things around that. Before I forget, of course, don't forget to like the stream, share the stream or the video if you're watching it after the fact. Don't forget to also support us if you can through Ko-Fi, Patreon, and or picking up the game. Neofeud is 70% off right now, so consider grabbing the flagship Silver Spoon game and or any of the other games and music. All of this does go to keep on supporting us. I've been considering this kind of slightly off topic, but I might as well drop it now since I'm already on that train of thought. I've been considering starting a Silver Spook University, somewhat half jokingly, with some of our friends and fellow educators, some of whom are at the collegiate level, professors at universities. So I have a lot of friends. Dr. Luna Oy is a professor of. Dr. Luna Oy is a UK US expert, and I have another friend of Vietnamese heritage, and then I have another friend who is also a colleague who is Professor Flowers, who is not jokingly calls her or himself a professor. However, we also have some other friends like Big Teal who are like actually professors teaching at actual colleges. But anyways, we'll bring that up later. So now we have to get back to Distrusting the Pilgrims. But I'm like, well, why don't I start my own? The Red Nation, speaking of indigenous people trying to educate the Pilgrims, apparently has their own classes they're going to be offering in the starting January on a variety of topics, including decolonization, indigenous-led socialist path, environmental activism, etc. And also, of course, hey, what's up, Emma? I'm in the BPM Black Power Media Discord now, so I'm seeing a bunch of other people that are often sometimes in these Silver Spook events, including the streams. Anyways, back to Wednesday though. That's what people are here for, probably, maybe. So this show is, of course, set in the universe of the Addams family. If you don't know that already, you probably know that, right? If you don't know that, it was sprung fully formed, like a golem from the mind of Tim Burton. Like there's it just popped out of his forehead, like his skull cracked open with like a tiny ball peen hammer was used by a homunculus sized Wednesday, shattered his skull, bits of flesh spraying from his forehead, and then this tiny creature, a very pale and with a black umbrella, came out and then it grew to the size of a Godzilla. I'm just kidding. It kind of looks like Godzilla. We just watched Godzilla versus King Kong, so I'm looking at this picture. It's like a very large. Anyways, I'm sorry for grossing you out, but that's part of the fun of the Addams family. Is there's lots of macabre. I think that was the intro. The intro subtitle. The Stranger Things went for tentacles slither through hole wetly. So that was kind of weirdly disturbing and sexual at the same time. I mean, no kink shaming, but the first subtitle for the Wednesday show. It's almost like there's gonna be the creepy weirding out subtitle Olympics. Is gonna be the Oscar awards / Emmys and the Golden Globes are gonna have a new award. Who can make the most creepy, unhinged, but also weirdly sexual subtitles for the intro of a Netflix original series? Stranger Things and Wednesday, there was a really weird subtitle. I don't know what it said. I bet if I type it in, I'm gonna find it. Wednesday, first subtitle. Okay, I'm not gonna be able. Yeah. So I swear it was something really weird. It was like what was it? Oh, Holly might remember what it was. It was like joyfully macabre something. Yeah. Watch if I Google this. I know I'm gonna find it because everybody's probably blowing up the algorithms and the virality with this sprightly macabre. Everybody's like googling what is sprightly, and then what's a macabre? What's a macabre? You know, that's what when I first saw that. Yeah. Anyways, it's not on Twitter yet. I'm too ahead of the curve. Next week, you type in sprightly macabre, it's gonna be like 25 videos with 6 million plus views, simply describing the dictionary definition of sprightly and macabre and trying to figure out what that means, and then comparing that to Stranger Things, tentacles squishing wetly through orifices. What does that mean in the context of Rule 34? Anyway, so Wednesday is a show that is it's definitely you know, kind of it's dark. It's a show that involves children like Pugsley and Wednesday Addams, obviously, but it's not a show. You know, you have to, when you make YouTube videos, for those of you who are doomed to the eternal downward spiral of addiction to pumping out 40 to 60 hours worth of work into 45-minute to hour and a half YouTube videos, you know, like me. Well, actually, I don't spend a lot of time editing, but if you ever have to put out a YouTube video, you know what I'm talking about, right? Made for kids, not made for kids, right? And so this show has kids in it, but it's definitely not made for kids. So you don't want to. It's not really one to be watching with your 7-year-olds. You know, they'd be playing with their My Little Ponies, or their, I don't know what they play with nowadays. They're playing with their what are they playing with? They're playing with Among Us's, or they're playing with their Minecrafts, and then you show them this show, and then suddenly they're having deep, dark thoughts, and they just start staring off into the middle distance at all times like this. They just start glaring. They only have one expression for the rest of their life. You know, they kind of glower macabrely. They glower macabrely for the rest of their life, and so you don't want to do that to them. It's deeply traumatizing. No, the show it definitely has like blood, and there's some guts, and there's some gore. There's some I don't say guts yet. There's definitely blood. Like somebody gets at the beginning of this show, the Winklevoss. I'm sorry, the Winklevoss twins from Mark Zuckerberg's tortured Harvard past. No, there's like the swimming team, right? The swimming team. In Stranger Things, it would have been like Mr. Farrah Fawcett Hairspray. You know, he was the captain of the swim team, but more taller and more whiter. The jock dudes are kind of like in the swimming pool, kind of bullying Wednesday's brother, or they had done something, and so Wednesday is like, I'm gonna go and stop these white dude jock jerks, and brings 2 bags full of piranhas and drops them. Speaking of burning your village to the ground, it's more like razor tooth fish bite your village to the ground in the beginning, but she drops all these piranhas into the pool, and all of the swim team jock dudes are like flailing and just like, dog paddling and seal swishing, or whatever the fuck they do. They're definitely they're not doing the Aquaman stroke, that's for sure. All the swim team are trying to get out of the pool as fast as they possibly can, and then one of them gets like chewed up, and then there's an explosion there's like frothing water with red coming out of it, like in the first 2 minutes of the show. It's like right in the beginning, so it's not necessary. This is not a show that's gonna be like, it's not like family friendly, or it's not family friendly. There's a lot of families in it, but it's not a show for young kids. But anyways, but you get it. But you probably, I mean, the Addams Family. I mean, it has a lot of dark humor and darkness, and then also, it's not like a slasher show. It's not. I won't say that. It's not like it's probably got about maybe the level of scares and violence and stuff as maybe Stranger Things. Although I haven't watched the whole thing yet. Hey, what's up, Big Deal? You like the piranha scene? Indeed. So it's got a lot of I mean, there's a lot going on already. I haven't really thought about it too much. Still, it's still kind of the bodies are still, the bodies are still, the blood hasn't quite yet coagulated, and they haven't yet been processed into wood chipper gruel or hamburger yet, to be fed to our most disliked relatives at Thanksgiving. The show is still fresh meat in my mind. It hasn't quite stewed, like 3-day-old Thanksgiving leftovers, when your relatives that have been turned into hummus or ham, they taste better on the day 3. I'm sorry, you don't eat your relatives. You don't do that. I'm just like, no, it's like the show is definitely, it's very snappy. It's very witty. The writing is, Wednesday's character is like definitely like, it's like Christina Ricci channeling, Christina Ricci's character in the original Addams Family, and then Daria, from the late 90s, the late 90s goth girl cartoon. It's got like what's her name, the Beetlejuice character. Although this character is more what would we say? Yeah, I guess her is very similar to all those characters. Definitely into like obscure French pop, typing out mystery novels. I can't remember the name of it's like using an actual typewriter. That part is fun. She's I think one of her lines is I refuse to be a slave to, like her friend forced room occupant, forced to be in the same space, is like, why don't you have a phone? Why don't you have a Instagram, a Snapchat, a Snattergram? Why don't you have a Twitch tube and a Uspace, right? And all those other things. Why don't you? You don't have a VTuber avatar yet? What are you doing? Right? Her friend is like super lively and pop. And what did I write down? Let me see if I can find it. I wrote down exactly kind of this sentence that was basically what that amounts to. But it's a place that I should not show. Anyways, yeah. So it's like her friend is a very lively, total polar opposite of Wednesday. Enid is her name, and she's in this new school that Wednesday is sent to. I'm like jumping. I'm space-time traveling through the plot because I don't want to rehash it. You can always just go read the synopsis from IMDb, Google, or there's a quadrillion websites and places that you can find that. So I'm not gonna rehash that. But I did want to say that inside of the part where she meets the kind of foil for her character, I would argue it's the roommate at the new school that Wednesday has just said. It's like the school for spooky people. It's a school where Baby Spook went to, and Baby Spook, I mean Silver Spook minus 25 years. I was kooky and I was spooky, and I was all a little hooky. I can't remember the song. I'm sorry. I just know you snap 2 times. There's a lot of references and and send ups and callbacks to the Addams family. She does the snapping 2 times. Somebody says you're kind. It's not like you're like bad or nasty. It's you're just a little kooky. And she's all like, I prefer spooky actually. And then she goes to this new school, right? And then her friend there at the school is the opposite of her, right? Her friend is so let me just get this out of here so I can put that somewhere where I can read it. Her friend is very like upbeat. She's very bouncy. She's got like everybody is not quote unquote normies. You know, they're not. Is that word still used by kids nowadays? I don't know. Everybody isn't the average person. They're werewolves in this new school. They're vampires. I forget the name of the school. Holly probably remembers it. They're vampires. They're werewolves. They're sirens. And then there's I haven't got to the point where they describe the other thing. But they're basically some kind of telekinetic magicians is somebody. But and so Wednesday's new roommate is somebody who is a werewolf, but a very lively werewolf, right? So very upbeat. And so Wednesday's dark perma glare against Enid, the werewolf, rainbow of made for Instagram, like over emoting, just like really big expressions, like, you know, a constant like laughing and then crying and then happy and smiling and grabbing your hands and clapping their hands and then giving you like a, you know, it's the kind of people at a cosplay convention, like a, you know, whatever kind of conventions that you go to, science fiction or fantasy or comic books or whatever. The person that runs across the convention floor and does like a flying glomp or like a flying hug onto all their favorite characters, kind of personality. Don't do that, by the way. That's getting into people's personal space and the violating of their 3 feet bubble. Well, they're violating their privacy bubble. And that actually comes up in the show because the Enid's character is about to give Wednesday like a big hug, like, oh, it's so great, we're gonna be best friends, yay! Like the first time Wednesday encounters, Wednesday enters the new school, the boarding school room that she's gonna be in with, like the dorm room, right? Which is like at the top of a spooky, haunted, you know, estate, like mansion-y looking. It looks like the Resident Evil castle a little bit, maybe bigger than that. And then it has like a huge window. But then the friend is a werewolf. Enid is a werewolf who has like decorated it up. They've decorated the window into like rainbow stained glass, so there's like yellow and red and blue and green. You know, it looks like it does look like a rainbow vomited all over the room. And then and she's got like, you know, she's got pink and purple hair. She wears kitty hat. I mean, I was kind of joking about it with Holly. Is like the dynamic between Wednesday and Wednesday's like super dark, serious gloominess, and then Enid's kind of like just like bright, bouncy. She's like Pinkie Pie, you know. It's a party, you know. We're all gonna like Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony. I know deep My Little Pony lore. Don't ask me why. I'm not a brony. I've never been to one of those conventions and been hugged by a you know, glitter covered Scootaloo. That's never happened to me. Don't ask me about that. Anyways, so the kids our kids like have kind of this dynamic where I mean I would say like more so previously, but like one of our Holly and my 2 kids, like we were like it's more upbeat, and it's more I would say more upbeat, but just like more into you know, it's more about that. It's sometimes like asking the other child. I hope they're not. I'm gonna try to lower my decibels. And normally I do high frequency, high decibel like jet engine volume education, but I'm gonna try to tone down the volume a little bit so that I don't get beat up by my kids later. No, anyways, but no, it's like one of them is like very like person more not neither of them is as extreme as these two characters, but one is more into like, let's all do these things together. Hey, you want to go play Minecraft? We're gonna go raid the dungeon and 525 goats and make a shrine out of diamonds and iron in the shape of an oxalotl, not an oxalotl. You're gonna get in trouble. You say that around our actually educated children, having gone to any colonizer school. Let's go and let's play and let's party. And the other kid's like, it's like it kind of looks like Christina Ricci, not Christina Ricci. Christina Ricci actually shows up. The original actress who played Wednesday in the 90s is back 30 years later, playing one of the teachers. Right? Is it one of the teachers at the school? She's actually more normie. It's kind of funny. She's like the normie that doesn't fit into the normal school, and also but then is too not normal to fit into the normal school, but not weird enough to fit into the really weird haunted mansion full of werewolves and vampire school. So yeah, Christina Ricci does show up in there. But anyway, so what Wednesday's character is very much like it resembles the dynamic that we I don't know, at least I see it. And then there's a point where the rainbow werewolf girl puts on literal kitty hat, like he's like, we're all gonna win the kitty race. In the black cats. Is it the black cats? The black cats. There's this like school. It's like it is kind of like the Winklevoss, though. Speaking of the Social Network with Mark Zuckerberg, David Fincher movie, where it's like a East Coast school that's gonna have a aquatic paddling based race. This one they're canoe paddling, and it's a canoe paddling race that they have to that there's with no rules. You can use you can use giant mechanically operated axes that swing out the side of your canoe to chop other people's heads off. You can have the spike sidewinder blades from Spy Hunter come out of one of the, or it's just basically spikes come out. You can stab holes into other people's canoes. You can have your mermen swim underneath and push the other canoes over, push them into the to break against the giant buoys in the lake. You can do anything. You can basically do anything, including kill your fellow pupils in the school canoe paddling race. And so that's it. So like, I mean, it's definitely, it's like, it's definitely the Addams Family. It's definitely some goth shit in that sense. It is not a show for, it is not, I was going to say My Pony Princess, but that's a Neofeud send up of the My Little Pony show. It is not My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, right? It is not it's not a show. It is not the Care Bears. It is not. It's not. It's not Gem and the Misfits. Why am I going back 40 years into obscure references nobody's gonna get except for the 5, geriatric, dislocated cervical membrane, Gen Xers that are watching. Anyways, there's probably more than 5. It's probably more like half of the people watching. Wednesday is a show that does center like a goth, is a very gothic perspective. And there's a lot of people, also millennials. I'm like 40 years old right now, so I'm already. I need a cyber arm, and I need a cyber arm, and I need a Sonic. I need a robot machine Sonic the Hedgehog back so that I can even function and stand up properly and type words. But anyways, random analgesic and non-opioid pain relievers aside. Wednesday is a show that does deal with lots of that kind of just like growing up. It reminds me, I have entire panels, right, that are specifically about, I have like 3 of them specifically that are about growing up while being a goth, but even more specifically being an alternative / goth POC. And where did I put those panels? Also, I have one just on Stranger Things, speaking of that. I swear to God, are they here? Or did I put it in my video section? Um, yeah. So I mean, I have entire. There it is. Yeah, all goth POC and then all goth POC posture. I have like two of these actually. Also, we recently I had Holly watch Stargate. Random aside. I know that I have that. That was one of the pictures that I used for the background for this thing. But anyways, so being an alt goth POC is its own unique experience outside of just being goth. And this was one we did with. Actually, our friend Anis kind of looks like Wednesday in the show, and is also Hispanic or Latin. I forget. I think Mexican, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, so speaking of alt goth, speaking of Wednesdays, this is like a panel full of Wednesdays. Or there's like one, two, at least 3 Wednesdays, and then there's a indigenous goth from Hawaii, and then we have black goth, and then we have some other Pacific Islander goths. But anyways, but it's like the experience. And if you want to learn more specific about that, you can go watch those panels. But being one of the topics that came up. I have not seen the entire Wednesday show, so I don't know if that's gonna come up. This is me talking too much. Like I'm being distracted by my own face 6 months ago talking. Stop talking so much, Jesus Christ. Anyways, I'm gonna say I say the equivalent of like 1.5 Tom Clancy books every Saturday. So I should probably not. I'm gonna break that promise. Like I'm gonna stop talking today. Anyways, so but that is me doing my alt goth that's my all goth version of Raw. I think that's what I did. I changed my presentation in the middle of that in the middle of this panel. Anyways, I'm gonna stop being distracted by my fan presentation face. I'm non-binary and sometimes I present in other ways. But anyways, so being a goth is kind of an outgrowth, and that was one of the topics that we came up. It's like the goth and alt subcultures is. A lot of it is an outgrowth, right, of being somebody who is not, it does come up in Wednesday, right? Just to kind of dovetail the media / reality and history wormhole warping back into the actual topic I'm supposed to be talking about. In Wednesday, there is a part of the show where you do have actual reasons why Wednesday is the way that Wednesday is, right? Because Wednesday is in the flashback. Not the okay. There's a flashback to a scene where Wednesday, as a child, right, has Wednesday's still a child, but when she was a lot younger, I forget the exact age. It was like this age, right? The very small Wednesday, 7, maybe 6. She has a pet scorpion. I'm trying to find a picture of the scorpion. Let's see. Yeah, so Wednesday has a pet scorpion. Kind of looks like that. That's not the one I want though. And she is trying to. She's just like walking down the street, and then all of a sudden, if I'm not mistaken, somebody or a bunch of mean boys come out and they bully her. Oh, this is her friend, by the way. I should save that picture for later. That's Wednesday in her rainbow Pinkie Pie werewolf that only has claws that come out about 2 inches, and that's all. With literal rainbow colored cotton candy hair. Possibly an e-girl, although I don't know, that could be a TOS violation though. I shouldn't say that. Anyways, so Wednesday's character is doesn't start out as so. I mean, they're Addams, right? So they're like that's kind of their whole thing, right? The Addams family they're creepy and they're kooky. They're all a little spooky. So that's their whole deal, like the Munsters, right? But like Wednesday, it wasn't quite so extremely dreary and so dark and so quite so hardcore goth emo as she is in the beginning of the show. And when the flashback kind of explains, like, there's this event that happens that kind of traumatizes Wednesday when she first like has her pet scorpion walking down the street, and then mean boys come and like kind of smash the scorpion, like run over it with a bike back and forth like mobsters. And then she has to bury her scorpion, and then she cries for the scorpion, right? She cries for her dead pet scorpion. Of course, like that's already part of it. It's like a pet scorpion, right? It's not a pet dog or cat. That's how you know it's Addams. And then so she's crying for the pet scorpion, and then she's saying to her, then she says to herself, and this, I realized that this did nothing. Tears do nothing, right? Feeling your feelings does nothing, right? I think there's another line. She has to go to a therapist, right? She has to go to this therapist in the show, court ordered because of her attempted murder, right? This is a therapist. Because of attempted murder of the swim team at her previous normie school, Wednesday has to see this therapist, and doesn't want to see the therapist, and is like, I think she says something like, I don't want to talk about emotions. I don't want to talk about my feelings. Emotions are a gateway to tears, and tears are useless, right? So she basically, like, it's like she doesn't want to process any of this grief, and the therapist's like, I'm here to help you process things, and then and so Wednesday's like, I don't want to process anything except the sirloin and the arm and leg tendons of my most hated relatives and the mean boys at school. That's the only thing I'm processing. I'm processing them into hamburger that I'm going to cook and I'm going to serve along with gravy and a nice Chianti beans and a nice polenta this Thanksgiving. I don't want to talk to you, therapist lady. I do not want to talk to you. I'm going to jump out the window by using a nail filer to lockpick the locked windows in this bathroom you have. Anyways, I gave away a little bit of the plot. Anyways, so it's definitely like a lot of the show is dealing with like what, you know, not dealing with, but that's like and again, I haven't watched the whole show, so I don't know the whole show. It's not very long, I hear, not a ton of episodes, but it's starting, you know, it goes into like the things that cause people to, or that's not all the things, but some things that is the reason why people become goths. But in the All Goth PLC, we go into a lot more of that, and that's where I was trying to dovetail that off into is in the All Goth PLC panel. You know, it's like the darkness, and as somebody who I would identify as, you know, I wasn't like, well, number one, I went to some fancy Catholic prep school, so that's already I wasn't rich, but I was like, that's the school that my parents taught at so that they could afford to send me there. But that's a whole other can of worms that we're not at that level of Silver Spook DEF CON yet, so we can't go there yet. But inside of the school, I was different. Let's just say I was different, right? And so I got bullied a lot, and so that's the thing that Wednesday also goes through. And all of us on this panel, we're talking about the different types of bullying. Now, if you are not white, indigenous in places like the United States or U.S. occupied places like Hawaii, then that's part of it. You know, part of it is like my body type and body size, which also goes with I'm Native Hawaiian and Asian and other things. But you know, my body was different from the people there. My income level is different. I was just different from the people at this school. And so then that resulted in a lot of different types of bullying and shaming and attacks and icing and the cold shoulder and be made fun of all the time. And so that kind of thing is what, you know, and then so like as a response to that, it's like, well, I think Anise was like, well, you think I'm bad and scary or whatever it is. Well, I'm going to be like super scary. I'm going to be like, you keep saying that I'm like a demon sorceress that eats bats and, you know, is has weird food, right? Because if you're not white, you also have all these weird foods that you're bringing to school in your school lunch. Oh, you have the smelly. What is that? What is that? Korean seaweed? Are you eating poop? What is that? That's this. What muskaka? You know, like what do you have in your thing? What is your different culture that isn't pilgrim culture, let's say. All right. Speaking of burn your village to the ground, and then so like that, and so I mean, having Wednesday being number one, being I think it's played by what is she's a Mexican girl if I'm not mistaken, right? She's like Hispanic something. She's not white, but it's like being already, that's one of the ways that you get bullied and you get pushed out of the in group, which is, you know, the usual suspects in places like the West, and so Goths are often people who have extra embraced those have not extra, but, you know, just have deeply embraced their differentness, their kookiness, their weird and spookiness. I mean, weird and spooky according to Western white patriarchal capitalists, you know, all of our favorite words, civilization. I want to get to a tweet later on about that. I got to bookmark that in my brain. But if you are not like the normal, you know, you eat your apple pie, you know, like that Thanksgiving meme, you know, I want to show that. That one's funny. Let me see if I can find that TikTok. You know the TikTok? I'm sure how you got it, but, you know, it's a TikTok. The one with everybody's different foods, what they brought for Thanksgiving. You don't have a link to that? When everybody brings their gifts to Thanksgiving. There's this Thanksgiving meme, right? And then the Thanksgiving meme, it's a Thanksgiving TikTok video of all different cultures. And what foods they bring, right? Just like Vietnamese, there's Mexican, there's India, like from India, foods. See if I can find that. I can't find it. I'm not gonna be able to find it. I should not try. But there's a meme where it's like, you know, and if you're white, you bring apple pie, and it's like a girl comes out and she's like, she looks like she's gonna be, when she grows up a little more, she's gonna be like a model for NATO ads. No, I'm just kidding. She's like, but she just looks like a white girl with an apple pie. Everyone else has like, you know, some kind of like very spiced food. Like, you know, I think there's kimchi for Korean or something, kimchi plus other things. It's like the Vietnamese food is like this. It looks like a very like spicy chicken with, you know, or might have been something related to pho, if I'm not mistaken. Which has, you know, it's got lots of different vegetables, lots of different spices, lots of different food all kind of cooked together, and then it's like white apple pie. And so my point was that, like, you know, if you aren't white apple pie, hamburger, hot dogs, Star Spangled, normal Christian, you know, white America, especially in like a American suburb, right? Like, you know, or if you aren't like doing normal, and I have a whole streams about that, Stranger Things ones, and, you know, the demonization of things that are actually good and based like indigenous culture and differences between cultures. If you aren't doing things the right way, right? If your body doesn't look the right, like Eurocentric beauty standards, slim, small, if your body type doesn't have the BMI of a white Swedish male, adult male, and male specifically, and women and non-white people all have to adhere to less than 0.1% of the planet's body average, right? Then you are bad, and you have to take these diet pills, you know, and like that's a topic that comes up with in the All Goth POC panel. So if you don't fit, if your body type, your body shape, you know, so if you have a brown Hawaiian, a body, a black body, of your character, like talking about my mom's hair and recently we had an indigenous panel. I was talking about that topic of my mom's hair was not my mom's hair is kooky and spooky. I mean, it's not spooky. It's black people's hair. He has very extremely bushy curly hair, because guess what? There's a lot of Hawaiians, the Austronesian and Melanesian, and peoples that a lot of people that are in Hawaii have actually closer genetic ties to people from Africa, and although it's in the Pacific, Native Hawaiian, we have a lot of different skin colors, shades, and hair textures and types. But you know, my mom's hair was very different, and so that made it, and so that difference, right, Now the thing is, right? You have this kind of weird thing where you can try. My mom still straightens her hair to this day, right? She's like 70 years old. She still straightens her hair to try to fit in with white culture, with white apple pie culture, right? With pilgrim culture, right? With all the normies culture, and not just culture, like white supremacy. In fact, right? It's and so my mom hates her appearance, her own skin color, and her own hair in that way. And whereas like other people will choose, like I was saying, like we're talking about in this video, right? Other of us have chosen to simply embrace, well, we're weird, well, we'll just be super weird. You think we're creepy, our food is odd and disgusting, and we're eating bats, which is giving you COVID, like, right? All that stuff actually comes together, right? These racist stereotypes and prejudices that come from misunderstandings, and it's really Western normative. It's really fascist ultimately, and but even though it's not as always directly violent, the ability to not accept just like arbitrary differences between different people's body types, skin types, hair types, food, even just like spiritual practices, cultural practices. I mean, some of them are like not acceptable, like killing people and stuff like that. But if it's just like what sort of dances do you do, these kind of things, and that was kind of one of the points of like I think the Stranger Things videos I've made. One of them I did on Sabrina, which is very similar to Wednesday, is that the things that cause people to become goths or in these alternative subcultures, right? And they're not always necessarily people of color. Could be you're gay, you're queer, you want to have long hair, and you're from a military family, and your white dad and mom, and your military dad is like, son, you're gonna be a son. You are my son. You will not be a little girly boy, right? And so then, but you inside, right? You have bodily dysmorphia because now you are non-binary or trans. You are not what your white apple pie pilgrim family is telling you that you are. So now you're dealing with this internal strife, right? And then in school also you're dealing with that, and maybe and so you don't really know what to do with that, but you're acting out on this. You walk, you talk, you act in a way that isn't like a straight cis boy in your school, and so then sometimes that comes out as, well, you think I'm weird, you think I'm not doing things, you think I'm not performing my Western, patriarchal, homophobic, transphobic, racist culture properly. Well, I'll be extra weird. I'll just be all goth. I'm just gonna scare the crap out of you, So all of those things, feed into the. I mean, it is not. That's not why everybody's a goth necessarily, but that's not why everybody is in one of these alter. But certainly that's like a thing that pushes a lot of people towards those. I mean, some of it is, the subcultures, their fashion, their musical styles, right? Like goth music, like, I don't know, the Smashing Pumpkins. I listened to a lot of them when I was in high school. The Cure, et cetera, et cetera. But you get into all the gothic literature, or just like reading generally, which the average American doesn't do except to pass a test, and then they forget all the history. Not that the history matters in America, because they don't teach any history in the West. That's actually true. But anyways, on the whole of it, so all those things kind of push you out, and so the show is at least it doesn't do it. I'm expanding out when I showed that panel that we did, but I'm like branching out from there a bit. But the show does like at least like kind of like deal with like the origins of Wednesday in a way that, let's say, it's not, obviously they're not focusing on either. Well, obviously the whole family is kind of is dark and gloomy and gothy, right? But also they never really focus on, like in the Christina Ricci 90s Tim Burton show or the other ones. There's not really a show that really focuses on what made the character that way. Even like Lydia, is it Lydia from Beetlejuice that's played by Beetlejuice? Lydia Dietz is the daughter of the family that's moving in. They're the you know, the rich fancy New York, the New York 400. Is that what they call them? The New York 200. I can't remember. This is a name for the most important, most richest, most powerful people in New York. So it's like this kind of upper class New Yorkers move into this in Beetlejuice, right? They move into this house in the and that's not him. That's him. Michael Keaton. They move into this house in the middle of a little small town in New England, and the daughter is she's a goth girl. She's doesn't want to be speaking and talking and being around her family, but you kind of get that she is not like well accepted in her own. And I see in the beginning, her family are kind of annoying, snob. Her mom is just obsessed with making ridiculous sculptures. Kathleen O'Hara. Her dad is kind of like an out to lunch, banker dude, just scheming and trying to flip real estate all the time and make more money. And then so you kind of get the sense of like, her character. I mean, you don't really see exactly what kind of like pushes her in the direction, but you kind of like get the sense that if she was in school, she would have been having some not so fun run-ins with the normies, let's say. But anyways, that's just kind of aside. But my point was that the characters that you see when you do see those social characters in like Beetlejuice or in Wednesday, they don't always like deal with like what brought the character to that point in their life where they are writing live journal poetry about wilting roses and ashes, and everything is ashes in my mouth. That's like the favorite line when you read live journal goth poetry circa 2002. You're listening to a lot of like, I guess in the noughties, new metal is pretty hot. Like, Evanescence is the thing. That was kind of like when the goths turned 20, or at least when the 90s goth turns 20. There's a lot of Evanescence for you, and then there's some Linkin Park somewhere around there. That's like Holly was teenager and then young adult in the noughties. For me, it was a little bit earlier than that. So anyways, there's a lot of Smashing Pumpkins. There was some what was the music? I mean, The Cure has always been around. I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank on all of those specific band names, but Nine Inch Nails. Speaking of random ties to the present, Trent Reznor has left Twitter, and Jordan B. Peterson. Speaking of white apple pie pilgrim culture, Jordan B. Peterson and Elon Musk have joined forces, like some kind of eldritch, elder god of mediocre white loserness, mediocre white patriarchal dude loserness. They've gotten together and tried to attack Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails. That he's not that cool. Like, I can't think of two more uncool dudes than Elon Musk and Jordan B. Peterson. Two people who have never made an actually funny joke in their life. Two people who have produced billions of dollars of net detriment to society's brains and to the net worth of American corporations. I mean, Elon specifically, to all of the companies that he's run, including Twitter. And Jordan, he's caused like so many problems for so many people who might have gotten a date one time, but he's just like giving them advice like just yell and scream and be mean to women. Anyway, so Jordan Peterson has caused a lot of millions of people who might have had dates, girlfriends, and happy marriages, like the Addams family parents. One of them played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, the other played by Luis Guzman. And Jordan Peterson has ruined so many Addams family level of. That's the one thing you cannot fault the Addams for. They have very happy, loving, with lots of PDA, public displays of affection, to the chagrin of Wednesday, and near vomiting and extreme nausea. So the Addams family, they have like loving marriages, and Jordan Peterson has ruined so many of them, and Elon Musk has completely ruined. I'm sure he's with all of his men's rights activists, blasting and shoving his face into 200 million people's eyeballs every day, all day. He forcing everyone to follow him, right? That's with his magical freedom of speech powers, where everybody has to praise the emperor's new non-clothes King Elon. Techno King Elon. Anyways, so my point was that Trent Reznor is another one of those goth. Trent Reznor's music. Somebody said, actually, let me see if I can find that tweet where somebody said Trent Reznor's music, right? Let me see if I can find Trent Reznor, Elon. This fucking. He's. Elon Musk lost 100 billion butthurt over Twitter departure of Trent Reznor. Elon, I'm sure Elon is a fan. He's a huge fucking fan of Nine Inch Nails and Trent Reznor. You know what I'm saying? I know this. You know how I know this? Because Elon Musk makes cars in the shape of Deus Ex, the 2000s video game that you probably don't even know about, unless you're a long-time Silver Spook watcher. Elon loves the Deus Ex video game character so much that he made his Cybertruck with the reduced poly count of a Lara Croft or a JC Denton. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And he also said he loves those games. He loves 90s video games. He loves those FPSs. He loves the Matrix. He loves Quake. And Trent Reznor literally did the music for the Quake soundtrack. That's why there's a Nine Inch Nails pickup inside of the game Quake. And so I know that Elon is a fan. He is deeply hurt that Trent basically gave him the middle finger, and Elon has like his residual self-image is to speak to another Matrix resident, has really fallen down the tubes. But anyways, Twitter becomes increasingly uninhabitable. The gravity of what all this means began to take shape, and it's less ha 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 suck at Elon and more of a huge bummer. Maybe so I can find the actual. I don't care about your article. I'm sorry, but I don't give a shit. I just want to find this. It turns out that Trent Nine Inch Nails Reznor is actually a crybaby, and it's quite a sight watching the world's richest man cope in real time as he realizes that buying the entire cool kids table only results in more wedgies. So I don't want to give Elon. I don't want to make Elon is not a goth. Elon has been the Mr. Fancy Pants, but he, if anything, Elon is the real dickhead nerd that shows up and like repeats the bullying process in the nerd out group, if anything. So I don't want to give Elon any empathy, sympathy points at all, because he does not deserve any, this clown. Anyways, it turns out that Trent Nine Inch Nails is actually a crybaby. No, he was butthurt because Trent Reznor is one of those people who, like, I don't want to psychoanalyze every pop cultural and mega celebrity in the Western world at this second, but part of Trent's whole thing is that his music, it does deal with and Nine Inch Nails, it does deal with like depression. It deals with drug addiction. It deals with his albums like The Downward Spiral. They deal with like spiraling downward because of problems in his life. His family, he's from like I mean, speaking of weird goths, this is one of them. As far as I know, not as fucked up and sexually abusive and emotionally abusive as Marilyn Manson. But anyways, I'm just waiting for all of my 90s music and movie stars to get canceled. Only Keanu will. One day there will be only Keanu left standing. It'll be like he will. It's like the Highlander. There can be only one surviving pre-2000s movie star, and it's gonna be Keanu. Anyways, Trent Reznor though was like, his family is from a depressed mining town. Like, his dad used to work at one of these industrial. It's like from the Rust Belt area. I think it's Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken. I might be Philadelphia, somewhere in that like blue collar, deindustrialized after the jump starting of neoliberalism sort of time period. And his dad in his family, after mass layoffs at one of these plants kind of fell in. He talks about it in one of his interviews. And then, so things were really not good in his area. Things were not good for him in the community, or what was left of the community. And so a lot of the music, industrial music, right, as kind of a subgenre of alternative music, which like industrial, it uses a lot of like things that sound like smashing hammers and like metal screeching against walls and stuff. And so like that as a kind of subgenre of music around new wave, goth, metal, and all that kind of stuff. I would say Nine Inch Nails is somewhere between new wave, alt rock, like more like Smashing Pumpkins-y stuff. It was around the same time that they were playing, and then techno and rave and metal. It's like somewhere in between all of that. And a lot of his music was about kind of like the depression and not be like wanting to like express emotions and like talk about what was going on, the internal trauma, wanting to process these traumas, familial traumas, some of them related to toxic masculinity, the mass drug addiction as a result from economic implosion and just American downward spiraling. That's why the album's called Downward Spiral. And an inability to address these things and then trying to talk about this. A lot of Smashing Pumpkins is like that too. But anyways, long story short, like, so there's a lot of goths that were like very into that music as well. I mean, I had the Nine Inch Nails albums, but anyways, long story short, and Reznor was like, I'm not gonna hang around with this white supremacist platform that is literally Elon every day wakes up and he tried to say this, but it's kind of implied, like he's putting Trump back on. He's gonna put lots of far right and right wing and fascist accounts reinstated back onto Twitter. And turns out I don't want to be around this kind of crap. I'm not gonna stick around for this. Which is like fair. I'm gonna choose to not be here anymore. And but long story short, like it's the things that cause people to kind of move in that direction are again, it's like the inability. It's like the trauma, and then the difficulties, and then being an outcast, and then like not being able to come back in, and so the kind of not being able to come back into some kind of not being able to heal from or reconcile in your community, in your own family, in a variety of ways, is the kind of things that cause not cause, but that's like the impetus behind a lot of, and the soul of a lot of what's in goth subcultures. And then there's a whole nother level of like a lot of alt and goth subcultures, including I Put a Spell on You are literally black and brown people's culture that is then appropriated by white culture. So there's that whole other level of it, but which is for a good reason, because the most outcast people are the people that their entire people as a culture, as a history, as a not just like a race, because they're not like, they're completely different species, but people who are black and brown have been outside of the West forever, right? Jewish people in Europe for centuries and millennia have been cast out there, and similarly non-Christians, right, have also been cast out in the Christian European white world. So and so the in Wednesday, I kind of come back to Wednesday. I'm like way off in orbit right now. It's not dealing with all of that. I'm reading some of this into this review, because you have to do stealth pop cultural reviews. That's all this is. Remember, that's all we're doing here. If anybody asks, that's all we're doing here is reviewing pop cultural shows, so that I can make sure that I have a Twitter and a YouTube channel. By the way, fun fact, everybody, in case you're wondering, I am on the list of if you're on Twitter, I'm talking about the list, right? 25 different people have sent me a Twitter message or a Mastodon or a Discord DM telling me, Silver Spook, you're on the far right's list for Twitter deplatforming. I'm like, yeah, I know. Stop fucking telling me that. 25. Everybody's telling. I mean, I guess I shouldn't. I'm not like mad. I'm just like, I know. So Everybody don't have to tell me. I know I'm one of the 5,000 most base people in the planet. It's okay. Me and Joe Biden, man. Me and Joe Biden and the literal CIA. And the CIA account is on the list. But anyways, but also there's a lot most native people. Nick Estes is on the list. Black Power Media. If you have a Twitter account, you're probably on the list. Who else is on the list? Lots of indigenous accounts, lots of Hawaiian accounts on the list. Let me see if I can find the Silver Spook guy. So I know somebody tagged me in it. They're like, Silver Spook, you're on the list. I'm gonna find it. Kamazats. Yeah, right here. So if you're asking like about this, if you're wondering what this is, I'm sorry I keep going off on tangents, but I just wanna say this. This is how you know you're for real. Because you're on the Antifa list. Right-wingers are organizing a mass false report campaign of over 5,000 Twitter accounts in a blatant attempt to deplatform the left. This is blown up, right? You've seen this. Chad Loader, who has done a lot of work out like fighting, trying to stop the right from doing things. I forget exactly the context, but him, Britney Spears is on the list. Over 5,000 Antifa accounts and Antifa follower accounts on Twitter. Let's get to work and purge. Let the purge begin. This is the Pilgrims. So this is the Pilgrims going on a witch hunt, right? This is the Jamestown in settlers. Speaking of Goths and speaking of Sabrina and Addams, when the Addams family and Wednesday, this is the police and pop quiz. How did the police begin in the United States of America? This is the police and the white men of Plymouth Rock and of New England coming for all of the women collaborating with the devil. And when we say devil, we mean what? Indigenous and black and brown people, right? The black slaves, indigenous to Africa, brought onto genocide, stolen indigenous land. Those are the demons and the devils. And the women are the women are the white women that decide to go off and not be part of capitalist, patriarchal, genocidal United States, right? And this is the witch hunt that has never ended. This is part of it. And then there's the bigger liberal witch hunt, but that's what the people who, the thing is, the people who are on this list, the Democrats and the Republicans, the center, the liberal, and the conservative all benefit from the people on the list being removed for the most part. And there's a few like, it's just ridiculous. They're not going to they can't take the CIA and Biden off. They all work for it. Elon and Biden and the CIA, they're all like that. They're not going to get rid of each other. But a lot of the people on the list, it would benefit the Democrats and the Republicans to have a lot of left accounts, a lot of black, African, anti-imperialist, indigenous people like me, Nick Estes, Red Nation, indigenous socialist accounts, Global South accounts. That's the kind of accounts that they are on the list, right? And number one is the ones that are coming for the full-on fascist vanguard people like Andy Ngo, right? The hardcore, just doxing all the leftists. And Elon is talking to Andy, and then he got several of people that Andy had a crosshair on. The platform had their accounts deactivated or suspended or banned, because Elon, that's the kind of person Elon is. He's a fascist, or he works with white supremacy and fascism, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but long story short, this is a witch hunt. This is a trying to get rid of whatever was good in the online spaces, in the way that the people who burned women who wanted to be seen as equal to men, who are working with indigenous people who had economic, gender, LGBTQ plus, and racial equality, right? Inter-ethnic equality, which is what was in Turtle Island before the United States showed up, right? Those are demonized and called demons by the Euro-Western capitalist world, patriarchal Christian world. And then the witch hunt is when the people, the white men specifically, go out with torches and pitchforks and 80 pounds of gunpowder and ammunition. That's what the Second Amendment is for. The Second Amendment is for genocide. It's to arm actual fascists, which is America, period. The white men of America, and kill and destroy and burn, right, and hang, lynch the women who collaborated with indigenous people, with anti-patriarchal, anti-capitalist, anti-racist people. I mean, and that was the point of a witch hunt. Like, that's actually what that's what it is. It's a fascist purge. It's like Nazi Germany getting rid of all the communists, getting rid of all the gay people, getting rid of all the ethnic minorities, right? It's like what Ukraine is doing right now. It's getting rid of all the ethnic differences, right? It's like getting rid of all the orcs, right? The orcs, you know what orcs is, right? In the Tolkien form. Pop quiz, what was the stream about 2 months ago? Orcs is a word that means people that are ethnically different from white, usually blue-eyed, Christian, monocultural Europeans, right? And especially of whatever particular sub-state in Western Europe you are. And so that's a witch hunt, right? The Ukraine war is the U.S. propagating and fanning the flames of Westernism, really, and the need to purge the differences, and so that's what this is. And so there's a list of over 5,000 Antifa accounts and Antifa followers. So Joe Biden is Antifa, apparently. So like logic, consistency, rationality. It's not education. Ability to keep stories straight. This is not a forte of the Western world, and including their more right wings, or the more mask off right wings. And so obviously not everybody is actually. Britney Spears is not. I don't know if Britney Spears is Antifa, right? But anyway, somebody just put together this list of over 5,000 so-called Antifa accounts and Antifa follower accounts. Elon Musk is participating in this purge, by the way, so that should be noted. So he's, anyone on the list, private, anyways. So on this list, you can find, you can go through it to see if you can find who your friend. I mean, thing is, there's so many people on the list, right? There's so many people on this list. I mean, you're gonna get rid of Joe Biden and Britney Spears? Are you for real? But there are a lot of people that are like smaller accounts. There are a lot of people that are like, I'm trying to see if I can notice anybody here. There are a lot of people that are smaller accounts. There are people that are mid-sized accounts. Some of them are like just parenting advice. At the same time, there are a lot of like left. There are a lot of socialist, anarchist, Socialist Rifle Association. There are tons and tons of black and brown accounts. There's black left, tons of anti-imperialist left, tons of indigenous accounts. There's tons. Oh, was that Nick? Anyways, so let me go back. So this is gonna get boring for you, but this is about removing the differences, right? When I was talking about like Wednesday, we're talking about. I'm supposed to be ostensibly in an alternate universe where Silver Spook remains on topic for the duration of his 2 hours video. I was talking about Wednesday, this show, but what Wednesday is also about is the adhering to the norms and mainstream society, right? Normie society versus the difference, right? And the difference is, this is not just like, I mean, a lot of times it's incutified. It's like, oh, and then this goth and this alt and this guy. But the thing is, like, this stuff is the real major differences in society is whether you adhere to white supremacist, patriarchal, capitalist imperialism, whether you adhere. Do you reject Satan, and that's communism, in your heart? That there was a movie. I mean, right? It was The Scarlet Letter, and then there was Arthur Miller's The Crucible, right? The Crucible was about the time it was made, in 1953 play by Arthur Miller. It was going back to the original Salem witch trials that took place in Massachusetts Bay Colony, and he wrote a play as an allegory for McCarthyism, right? So I'm not even really joking when I talk about the purge, right? The killing, witch hunting. When you say a witch hunt, people even know that it's so well used and well known that when you say this is a witch hunt, is when, if Hollywood is like, when it was getting rid of all of the left, socially more gay, pro-indigenous, right, leaning, and certainly pro anti-capitalist and socialist or communist leading screenwriters, right? then the it's a witch hunt, right? The McCarthyism is a practice of making false or unfounded accusations of subversion, treason, especially when related to anarchism, communism, socialism, and especially when done in a public, attention-grabbing manner. And so publicly coming out, right, and going like that is a witch, or that is demonic, that is bad, right? That you are a communist, sir. You are a communist. We have all of this evidence, and then all of the population, right, of America. I mean, this has to you cannot know American history if you don't know this, and you don't realize also what it means for the people that are on the other side of this, not just in America but around the world, right? The United States purged from academia, from Hollywood, from its films, from its books, from its every institution, from its government, from its military, from its school curriculum, public, private, charter, university, everywhere, especially universities, right? Ask Richard Wolff about this. He's been in there for a long time. He's like, he had an audience of 2 for his huge lectures with a Harvard, Princeton, and Yale. Speaking of pedigree, he has the ultimate triumvirate of pedigree. Nobody would show up to any of his lectures in the 20th century because of the witch hunt, right? Because of the witch hunts, right? Against communism, socialism, anarchism, which are really indigenous ways of existing, and then the economic format of that in the last 200 years has been codified in the Western languages as those concepts, with a white guy taking credit, right? Kropotkin, Marx, Engels, etc. But it's really not any different from what was happening 200, 300 years ago, right? It's just it's at a larger scale, maybe, because America's a bigger country. It's the 20th century. It's technologically, it's a different reality. It's using television, it's using more television, radio broadcasts, mass printed journals than just like marching through the woods and finding all the people that don't adhere to white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, and then lynching them, like the women and the people of color that are all just being slaughtered, right, in the woods of Massachusetts. But fundamentally, it's not any different in that sense. So you know, that's how you know I'm a demon, because I'm on the list for the witch hunt of the United States. But yeah, no, I am on this. I am right there. Yeah, so that's me. So I'm officially, when I said I used to joke, Silver Spook, I'm more based in the U.S. military, which has 800 military bases in almost every country on Earth. And so that's pretty based. And so this is the proof. This is my badge of honor. No. So people were sad they didn't get on it. The director producer of Leverage was like, "What the hell? How come I didn't get on this?" He has like 88 million followers on Twitter. I make the most. What did he say? I forget what he said. Something. I make the most anti-capitalist crime show, and I don't get on this. The creator of Leverage, the TV show. Not the Filipino writer, I think the original like not one of the director producer, but the actual creator. Holly knows what I'm talking about. Dean Devlin is his name. He's actually Filipino, so he's probably on the list, right? Because this is the white guy is probably too white to get on the list. They're like, well, you're very white and very duty, and you haven't done anything too bad. And Crime Think was also briefly suspended as well. That's like a left news organization. But anyways, so yeah. So anyway, so there's a lot of parallels there, and I've jumped way off again into another deep end, and I'm gonna come back because it's already 12:27. So, but the point of these streams is not necessarily to review these films. There's lots of places where if you want to get movie and TV show suggestions, you can go. But I'm trying to tie these things into the wider culture, and also, make sure. Oh, I didn't even talk about Black Hole Sun. Well, if you don't know what Black Hole Sun. Speaking of 90s music, you got Trent Reznor, you got freaking Nine Inch Nails, and now you've got Soundgarden. So I've got all the nostalgia feels for all of your 38-year-old brain feels, all the best, really creepy, smiling, plastic-faced suburban lady chopping a fish. Anyways, that's the Black Hole Sun music video. But Why did I bring up Black Hole Sun? I didn't bring up Black Hole Sun for any particular. Soundgarden. It was and the Chris Cornell was the original the writer, I think, for this song. But anyways, well, the Black Hole. I was thinking of the Black Hole Sun video where it's like this suburban white world all gets sucked up into a giant black hole in the sky. No, I forget why I brought that up initially. To be 100 with you, but it's I think I was just thinking of like 90s and the alt goth scene at that time, and I was thinking of just that kind of culture, and like Wednesday's character is definitely is a kind of black hole of sorts, surrounded by some creepy white suburbanites and just like creepy white normie people that are bullying her, and I think the image of a black hole sun kind of came into my mind. Anyways, random backstory and random nostalgia aside, also there's the Goth Indigenous Alliance. I already kind of talked about that, and Christina Ricci's Thanksgiving speech. Hiding in the light. Well, I mean, hiding in the light is just that's just puritanical culture. Pretending like you are the greatest thing and the most holiest and the most ethical and good thing. And then part of the purpose of a witch hunt, though, right? When you say that is the bad thing, right? That is the witch, right? And just throwing out accusations that all the other people around, right, who see the creepy, spooky, brown, non-white woman who isn't falling in line and immediately wants to have sex with every asshole dude around, right? And she's just not smiling enough. She's not happy enough, right? Why doesn't she put up with all of this? They don't say it that way. Like, you just have to do your duty because you sin as your foremother Eve sinned. You must pay for you will forever be. You are. Eve is like Eve is like the forever debt slave. It's like walking around with $200,000 of student loans on your back, never able to pay them back. Constantly have to slave away in a Starbucks, having your wages $400 a month of your wages garnished, making not enough to eat per month, right? And so Eve is like the forever debt slave. Women, are you forever owe because one time a snake made you eat an apple or something? We don't care because most Christians don't even read the Bible. They just use it for their own benefit. And weaponize misunderstandings of history and of their own religion. That's the core of Westernness. But anyways, so not having so if you're a woman that doesn't accept a patriarchal culture where you are subservient sexually to your husband, to men generally, cooking and cleaning, and doing unrequited and underpaid and underappreciated slave labor, especially around Thanksgiving when women. That's why I tried to make sure to do, we try to break more evenly up the total amount of cooking and cleaning and decorating and washing dishes labor Thanksgiving, because that's a time when the women get to do everything and the dudes get to enjoy being capitalist, selfish, spoiled white men of whatever color in the house while they're having mashed potatoes, turkey, and all the drinks, and the apple cider vinegar. I'm sorry, apple cider or whatever the hell. I don't know what you're drinking there. Don't have no flavorless turkey. Unseasoned, unsalted, cardboard sandpaper in your tongue turkey. That stuff's disgusting. We didn't have none of that stuff. We only had good food in the Silver Spook household. I'm gonna talk more about the food later on this evening, probably. I actually have an entire. I have like 25 different pictures of all the food that we. A lot of it was our garden and harvesting the food. A lot of this indigenous Hawaiian food. We have indigenous other Asia and Pacific Islander food. I have some Turtle Island plants that we have growing in the Plura crop garden. So we'll talk more about that, but not right now. Maybe that's an advertisement for later on. Don't have turkey. We check colonizer celebration. I just ran to look at the chat. That's how I know we have the cool chat. Cause I look at that chat and I don't immediately get irritated. Um, anyways, so we only have base stuff in the chat. But the actual reality of, you know, people who are being ostracized in their communities, right? For a variety of reasons. They don't want, again, like I was just talking about, they don't want to adhere to a patriarchal culture, and I have all the She-Hulk streams and others to deal with that one, right? People who are still mad at, I'm sure Elon really hates people like Megan Thee Stallion and hates the show She-Hulk, because then he remembers that, he remembers the time he was tweeting while Grimes is pregnant and in process of giving birth wife, and he was just mad that he wasn't having enough sex, and then he remembers that, like, if it wasn't for his hundreds of billions of dollars, he wouldn't be having any sex, and his power and his money and his ability to gaslight, bully, NDA, and force women to do things that he wants for him because of his powerful position that he can get away with. He wouldn't be any of that. And so I think, so it's kind of like he does not want there to be. That's why he's a men's rights activist. That's why he supports and he goes around and hangs around, pals with Jordan Peterson and people like Andy No and fascists, because he doesn't want a world where there is anything other than that. And so coming back to the show, anyway, you just watch the show again. The show is like definitely very snappy. The writing is very sharp. Like, she's constantly coming back at people who are she says something and she has a kind of like a little witty. It's very Daria like. It's very like, and then she has some witty retort and then it goes really dark. It'd be like, it's like a line and then the punchline's the last word. Like, I'm trying to think of one specifically. It'd be like, oh, Wednesday, you wouldn't want everyone to find out that, because I said in the beginning, she drops all these piranhas into the pool, and then somebody says, like, she drops all the piranhas in the pool to kind of, send a message to all the swim team boys, and one of them gets one of his testicles bit off, if I'm not mistaken. Am I mistaken on that? Something kind of nasty happens to him, but it's like something that is it's attempted murder. So somebody is like, you wouldn't want everyone finding out Wednesday that you did an attempted murder, and then she'll be like, oh, you're right. That would be horrible. People found out people might think I can't get the job done, and it's kind of like, right? It's kind of like, that would be terrible because I didn't actually murder them. And so there's like all that kind of there's like lots of those like little witty jokes, and I mean that's like a lot of the lines, to be honest, like probably like 30% of her lines or something like that. And so like, it's a show that does like it's watchable. Like, I stayed awake the whole thing, even though I watch it late at night, because I get up really early, and sometimes we watch shows late at night, so sometimes I just like can't stay up. I just start drifting off later at night, like 12, after 12 especially. I get up at 7, and like by the time it's at 12, I'm like drifting off. But like, I definitely like it keeps you engaged. It's like entertaining to watch. It's like funny, it's witty, it's got little lots of references to the original Addams Family. It's relatable, especially if different shows will be more interesting if they are more speaking to you. And so it's more relatable, I think, to people who were, 12, 16, 20, 25-year-old, 95-year-old goth kids. I don't know if you can still be a goth kid at 95. Goth children at heart, You're a child at heart. You can be a goth child at heart too. So if you grew up in that, milieu, you will have a lot to relate to. And if you are 20, if you're Gen Z, who are, by the way, they're all 20 plus now. Sorry if I made you just feel old, but it's still relatable. Like, it deals with like, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, YouTube, her friend has a vlog. Her very outgoing, Little Miss Sunshine werewolf character, is like she's afraid that she's gonna be ousted from her. She's not gonna be. She's gonna lose friends. She can't transform properly into a werewolf, and it's getting late. You learn that werewolves at a certain age, like puberty, they gain the ability to transform into full werewolves. She can't do that, so she's kind of like afraid that she's gonna be. If she's afraid that she will be a loner, a lone wolf, right, away from the pack. She would not be part of the social group. Whereas Wednesday is like, all I want is to be alone. I don't want to be anyone's friend. So that kind of dynamic plays off of each other. And so so like kind of updating it for the 2020s, where Wednesday's like, I don't want to be a slave to technology. And whereas the werewolf girl character is like, oh yeah, I love just I am the what is it? She's like, I am the social antennas for. I'm like the social go-to person for everything happening at our school. Keeping track of all of the discourse on Twitter, right? Knowing all the tea on Instagram, right? And constantly, socially interacting digitally in the tech world. And so so the Wednesday character literally doesn't have a phone. Like, she types her dark, gothic, creepy, she has written like multiple novels on a typewriter, like an ancient typewriter, and you see her typing on the typewriter like it's freaking 1940 or something, right? It's like, it was a dark and stormy night as I hammered the keys, with 10 pounds of force, because that's how much you got to hit a key with to make them type onto mechanical typewriters. We have to actually like smack. It's like every time, if you haven't ever used a typewriter or those old school, beige colored keyboards in the Apple IIe era that simulate typewriter haptics, let's say, or touch dynamics. If you don't, you'd have to press the key so hard that would actually, hit the paper hard enough to produce a stamped ink mark, right? So she's actually like whacking that keyboard, and it's kind of weird. It's like, that's another thing that makes her weird. Because everyone else is in the digital age where you're just, you're very gently touch tapping the phone, and you're, what is it? She like says something like, "You didn't even spell my name right, Addams," and and then you sent me 3 ridiculous image. You sent me 3 tiny little paintings of popsicles, rainbows, and unicorns, and then the werewolf, girl is like, those are emojis. And then what is he? And then Wednesday's like, well, if I was to send you these emojis, these 3 come to mind. Was it like shovel, yeah, like shovel, rope, hole, or shovel? It's like your the murder kit, the shovel, formaldehyde hole. I can't remember what it was. Shovel, gloves, hole, something like that. And so anyway, so it kind of like it's a show that does like update for the modern tech 2020s culture and technology and the experiences of people. Now, obviously, it's not written by kids, but it's like it has like input. It's a show that like has input from people like living in the real world in the 2020s, as opposed to, there's some shows where you get the sense of like, this is like Gen Xers. This is like 50, 60-year-old Gen Xers wrote teenagers today like they were teenagers in the 1980s. And I'm looking at you, Daybreaker. Is it Daybreakers? Daybreaker. I'm looking at you, Daybreakers. And I'm looking at you, what was the other one? Crap. There's a couple that are like that, where it's like the teenagers are acting like they're the freaking Breakfast Club in 1980s, but they're living in like 2020. And they're like, we don't have weird little cliques. I mean, not we kids. I mean, and I shouldn't. I'm like, hello, fellow kids. I have my backwards red Steve Buscemi hat and my backpack with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and my skateboard. I'm not to say that I am the child whisperer, even though I have 2 children. Anyways, and so, But like, kids are not so wrapped up in having $200 Levi jeans, right? And like being seen as in the out group if they don't have X amount of clothes. I mean, unless you're at a very expensive, weird, fucked up college prep school, that's not really the things that are mostly concerned. Our kids are concerned that they won't have a planet when they turn 30 years old, because the climate change burns it all down. They're concerned that like their gender identity is not respected by their parents, their peers, and teachers and other parts of the society. They're kind of worried that in some instances about that. They're worried that like fascism is gonna just come and steal all their relatives away and get all of their favorite Hawaiian anti-imperialist game devs banned from Twitter. They're worried about me. That's what kids are worried about. They're worried that that they're gonna lose Silver Spook tweets. That makes their day every day. Like all children, all 4 billion of them. Anyways, kids wearing Louis Vuitton at my school. Okay, so Big Teal got all the bougie kids for some reason. So I have to add a corollary. I have to qualify that statement with like not all kids. All of Big Teal students, these be some bougie ass kids, man. They come in, they got Christian Dior, they got Prada. They're like, hey, what does your daddy do? Oh, my daddy, I don't know. He like made wars in Afghanistan, and he coups countries and makes them all go into slavery somewhere in Southeast Asia. Oh, what does your daddy do? Oh, my daddy also made wars in Afghanistan, and then he also bans all of the actual leftists off of Twitter. Oh, is your daddy Elon? Yeah. Anyway, so anyways, I'm just kidding. I'm sure that everyone's dad isn't Elon that goes to Big Teal school. But anyways, so I'm sure that Big Teal is teaching them very important things about the history of the Caribbean. And I can never remember it. I'm so sorry. I know it's like the history in the Caribbean. Holly, you remember what it is? It's okay if you don't remember. Big Teal will tell me again. But anyways, Big Teal is teaching very important history to people who need to know it. Although sometimes they can be difficult. But sometimes they're 40 deep. They're 40 deep. They're just like flocks of these bougie ass kids with their Louis Vuitton, man. Grenada, Latin America, Cuba. There you go. I'm gonna remember now. Grenada, Latin America, and Cuba. That's the Caribbean, Latin America, the Caribbean and Latin America. But anyways, how are you gonna teach Pan Africanism with Louis Vuitton? Anyways, so Thanksgiving speech from the OG Addams. Though I haven't touched on that yet. It's already 12, almost 1. Gotta get out of here soon. How do we, the Thanksgiving speech from the original Addams family? Okay, so I think I'm not gonna play the whole speech because I think I'm gonna get in trouble for that. Holly has a link to it. Okay, let me see. Wait, Holly. Okay, drop it in there and I'll go grab it. Okay, so here's a speech. You can go watch it if you want to click that link. Don't watch it right now because I'll lose all my viewers and then I will cry because I don't have enough validation, social acceptance tokens today, and that'll make me sad. So, anyways, why is this copy link address? There you go. Is that gonna work? What the fuck? Okay, I don't understand why I can't just copy this link. Can I click that link? Oh, no, your link don't work for some strange, odd reason. Anyways. It works for you? Okay. I don't know what's going on here. YouTube Studio is messed up. Anyways, so if you want to watch this speech, I'm not gonna play it because I think it's gonna be a copyright related problems if I do that. But if you have not ever heard it, I do recommend you go, and you have to watch, if you don't want to, the entire Addams family. But it is the Addams Family movie has this particular scene, the Thanksgiving play scene, which has Christina Ricci at the age of like 12, 15. I can't remember exactly, but Christina Ricci, who also shows up in the show, which is really cool. That was a really nice addition. Yeah, so Christina Ricci shows up again in Wednesday, and she plays one of the teachers at the school. So this character in Wednesday is actually the same person in this scene from 1993, Thanksgiving play scene, in which Wednesday goes off into a speech. I wonder if I can get the actual quote. Can I get the lines from that speech? Yeah. So, but basically in this speech, if we can get the let me get that speech. Burn your village to the ground speech. Yeah, burn your village to the ground. It is also a song by the Hallucination, since I've already got that. So this is it was so somebody, I saw one of our indigenous relatives from Turtle Island said only Christina Ricci will get a pass for that whiteface that she did in Addams Family because of this speech, right? I mean, it's at a summer camp, and she's not the number one, right? There's actually a lot going on there. You think about it, right? Going back to our witch hunt, because in this scene, right? In the scene that I lost. In this scene, right? She is at a summer camp, right? Wednesday is at a summer camp for kids that she doesn't want to be at. She doesn't want to do anything in, right? Wednesday doesn't want to participate in any mainstream American culture, which includes dressing up like Indians, which is, I mean, right? Again, only in the last 5 years have some colonizers are now recognizing, hey, you know what? To be a white person and just throw on a feather headdress, right? Like this kid is in the background there, putting on Native Americans or indigenous people of Turtle Islands clothing and hats and using it as a Halloween costume, while your country historically has done genocide and continues to harm, kill, steal the children of, and poison the land with your unauthorized, illegal fossil fuel projects on indigenous territory like the APL, et cetera, et cetera. You know, that is not appropriate. That's cultural appropriation, in fact, right? But this is 1993. Nobody was even really this in mainstream. This Addams Family was a very popular show when it came out, right? A lot of people saw this show, and a lot of people saw the Addams Family Values. It was very popular. Had Angelica Houston in it, had Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future in it, and people. Now the reason why I'm saying that is that like the Pocahontas came out. What was that? Pocahontas was like incredibly like rewriting, incredibly anti-indigenous, right? Rewriting history, where some Native woman just like falls in love and just loves her colonizer. No, that's not what happened, right? It was horrible. She and their people were horribly treated and then genocided by people like Mr. John Smith, right? By people like all of the Anglo-Saxons and all of the Europeans that they brought over to be all of their working class labor, with the promise of, if you kill enough indigenous people and enslave black people and become a cop and help with that process, right? Kill the indigenous people, become a cop, round up slaves, get some slaves, be a white supremacist, pro-slavery capitalist, right? On stolen indigenous land, and you could have a cut of the United States. So all of that history is not, nobody was even thinking about really in terms of the wider American culture. that was not even a thing that was on the radar, you know, in the 90s, really. Like, let's be really real. Nobody to this day, the average American don't want to deal with that. They pay lip service. They do a land acknowledgement at their university, you know. They do a little oh, I'm sorry, I won't wear a Native American headdress for Halloween. Maybe. A lot, but half of America is like, screw that. I'm going to dance on indigenous graves with my with my red face, you know? And so the Addams Family Values, when it had this scene in it, right? That's like, and again, right, Wednesday is a character who is not adhering to mainstream American culture. It also includes the speech. I mean, whether the creators really realized what they were doing or not, the speech is basically going, screw the United States settler colonial project. It's actually everything she says is actually accurate in this speech. That's the funny thing. But it's taken as like, oh yeah, that's Wednesday. She's being a weird, kooky, you know, crazy little goth girl. Oh yeah, but actually nothing she says is incorrect in this entire speech in terms of like the factual history. And so that's why, you know, like indigenous groups like Hallucination, which is a indigenous musical group, right? They have an entire song that's just a quote, "Burn your village to the ground," played over and over and over and over. It was played at the pipeline protest. It was played at like Wet'suwet'en, Tiny House Warriors, indigenous actions to stop the burning of the planet, because indigenous people on the front line of that, indigenous people like us, I should say, I'm a native Hawaiian, are at the front line of stopping the fossil fuel companies, the big dirty industry, coal companies, etc., from building and expanding this infrastructure on stolen, illegally occupied lands, right? Unceded lands. And so this is one of the songs that was actually played repeatedly. I mean, I know because I was, you know, I was like following and trying to, and Holly also was like sharing and following that whole history. And so I'm trying to find the "Burn Your Village to the Ground" speech text. Let me get that. Now I want the entire text. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so of course, Wednesday Addams from Pocahontas, Wednesday Addams actually playing. So Wednesday Addams in that scene and Addams Family Values, right, is actually playing Pocahontas. She is being forced to play. This is the thing, right? Wednesday was forced to play. I mean, in the lore of the show, Wednesday's character is forced to play Pocahontas here, right? Like in this summer camp, right? Oh, these are the. I think this guy plays the art historian, museum runner in Ghostbusters 2, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, so those are the people running the camp. These are the Pilgrims, right? These are the Pilgrims. All the kids made to play the Pilgrims, and then Wednesday's character, Wednesday is made to play Pocahontas. Actually, that's very interesting, right? There's something else happening there. If you are a weird, spooky, alt goth, scary girl, right? Why don't you want to just bend over and just like have sex with every dude and just be like a cotton candy trad wife, right? And just be a servant for your man. Why do you want to go be supporting LGBTQ plus people, indigenous people? You want to go and don't want to. You're dressing all weird, right? You're making your face all spooky looking. You look like a corpse. Why are you black? Why don't you all right? Why don't you just like fit into capitalist American Western patriarchal culture? And so the goth girl Wednesday is made to play the indigenous person, the indigenous woman specifically, right? It's actually kind of saying the quiet part out loud, right? Speaking of the Goth Indigenous Alliance, because or the Goth and non-white, the Goth and non-white alliance, especially Goth and non-alternative women alliance, because a lot of the dudes get into some, sadly, not I shouldn't say all of the dudes, but I don't want to, but I want to also don't want to hashtag not all dudes. But it's kind of like a lot of dudes get into those cultures specifically to try to score with the goth girls and alt chicks because they like piercings, but they also want to be in control of them. There's lots of these around, unfortunately. But no, some of them, but the full on legit like goth dudes that get into it that are like for real about it, they will like also like will be like down with patriarchy and toxic masculinity, right? And that's like that's a line, because some dudes will just I'm gonna go to the Nine Inch Nails concert so I can try to score with one of these girls. I'm gonna put some roofies in this goth chick's drink, and then I'm gonna like do what I want, and then try to make her be my trad wife with goth characteristic. Have some piercings, but not too much, so that I can still keep my job at Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, Pentagon, and keep making and increasing my personal. I want to look cool, like Elon Musk is like. I want to have a cool goth chick, It's like I want to have somebody that's like does a little freaky, weird stuff, like Grimes is kind of Grimes not necessarily a goth, although I guess there's beach goth was a Grimes thing. But anyways, but don't get too weird, and make sure that you have all my babies for me, and pump them out. And if you just have a little earring and put on some cool eyeliner, but take it off when I say, and don't embarrass me in front of my Nazi Christian NATO friends. Okay, so just gotta tone that down and do whatever I say, especially. So those kind of dudes, that's we don't need those kind of goth dudes. Anyways, but Wednesday's character is put in the position of playing the indigenous person. I would argue, consciously or subconsciously, in this show, because that shows the positionality and ideological alignment of the people who are rejected by again the normie, right? That's what the word they use in Wednesday is normies, but what they mean is average mainstream Western culture, period. Western everything, really. Economic, political, religious, cultural, etc. Which is right wing, fascist, imperialist, capitalist, with slightly different flavorings. A little, it's like there's only one party. Danny Haifang was tweeting. There's only one there's only one party. Let's see if I can get Danny's tweet. That's actually a good example of what I'm talking about in a slightly different context. Our friend Danny is on this list. I can guarantee you that, of the list of the targets by the right wing that Elon Musk is helping to purge from Twitter. Danny had a tweet that was like, this is what it is, right? There is only one U.S. party, the War Party, right? So Bush in office is 9/11. Never forget, that settler colonial U.S. backed project in the Middle East. United We Stand bombs. Obama in office is, yes we can, hope and change, right? Settler colonial project in the Middle East to make problems for Russia and China and secure oil, and then something forward progress, LGBTQ plus flag, and then bombs dropping. Trump in office is, make America great again, settler colonial projects, thin blue line, cops are good, ACAG, all cops are good, Trump 2024, and then dropping bombs all over everybody. Imperialist capitalism. Biden in office, Black Lives Matter flag, settler colonial Middle East project, yes she can, rainbow flag. It's kind of like that's so I was kind of relate that to that's the spectrum of the freedom and the difference. That's the range between the Democratic and Republican Party, right? That's the range between what is acceptable in the United States of America culturally, religiously, economically, ideologically, right? You can be mask off fascist capitalist Republican, or you can be mask on fascist capitalist racist Sweden style sock them. That's the Democratic Party. I mean, that's not even the Democratic Party are just like, they're just like the Republican Party with a mask on. That's it. And then there's some European Dem sock bullshit that's just the same thing, but with slightly better signage, right? Slightly better token, appealing to particular audiences, right? But the actual policies of the United States and the West as a whole, they're all in lockstep with militarism, racism, war. There's no difference. There's no daylight between any of these, right? And so similarly, you can be, and so I was trying to like how that's analogous to, Elon's girlfriends, right? And white rich dudes' girlfriends and white dudes generally girlfriends can have a few goth characteristics. Like you can like wear you can have a little rainbow flag on your plane, but you definitely can't support black you can't be supporting gay and trans lives in mass and actually get billions of dollars of healthcare and change the entire society and policies right towards that. You can just put a flag on. You definitely can't help the gay and trans lives inside of the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. That's for damn sure, right? So like you can have your goth chick can have an earring or a nose ring, and maybe a little black eyeshadow, but you can't be like changing your entire body. You can't be like shaving your entire head because that's not attractive enough to the way that I want it to look, right? You can't be like changing your hair color into all these colors. You can't be like having armpit hair. You can't actually have bodily autonomy as a goth girlfriend. I just want goth girlfriend TM, but you still got to be a trad wife. You got to be, again, it's kind of like you can have like a Democratic Party that says that wears a kente cloth, but we can't actually stop the police murdering and mass incarcerating black lives, right? I mean, we could, but we sure as hell ain't gonna have no Black Lives Matter, and we can't have no rainbow flag and stop racism party and then stop blowing up Asian countries like Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria. That's not gonna happen, right? No, you can have you can have your one earring, but then inside you got to be a trad wife. You can have your one little symbol, but inside you still got to be a racist, capitalist, imperialist, fucking Nazi, actually, right? And so like all of the United States still runs on that. The West still runs on that. That's why they're backing Nazis, and there are restaurants in Vancouver that serve drinks called Orcs on Fire, right next to Slava Ukraini and Stepan Bandera's Victory, right? Orcs on Fire is reference to all the Russian orcs, and that's what we're gonna do. And Putin's bloody head is like one of the drinks. They serve it in Canadian bars in Toronto, in Vancouver, and the Canadian government. It's not even the United States. This is Canada, and they like let that stuff run, right? Because they that's their entire policy. That's still the Western policy. And then you can talk about human rights. You can do a land acknowledgement. I want to put one, the Canadian flag, the Canadian warplane is like, land acknowledgement, right? Flag with like a indigenous person's head on it, and then dropping bombs and like slit it. Because that's all they do. They're all throwing more and more money into needless wars all over the world, backing America's policies, sucking all of the resources out of the non-Western, non-white world, non-Christian world. So like anyway, but that's why I wanted to bring that up, because the entire anyway, the game is given up. And coming back to that little speech, right? When stuff like that happens, when stuff like this happens, it's kind of, I don't think that the creators of the show really intended that, to be honest, right? I mean, who is the showrunners for Addams Family Values, right? Addams Family, Angelica Houston's in it, Raul Julia, right before Street Fighter, his last movie, before he, he played M. Bison. Anyway, Christina Ricci was in that. Joan Cusack. It was just like a Hollywood movie, but but it's definitely like a thing where it is not played up to be serious when Wednesday actually says the things that she says, right? Let's come back to the actual speech. But it does kind of give the game away, because nothing she says is false. You have taken the land which is rightfully ours. This is the speech. This is the lines from the speech that Wednesday gives as Pocahontas in 1993. You have taken the land which is rightfully ours. Years from now, my people will be forced to live in mobile homes on reservations. Your people will wear cardigans and drink highballs. We will sell our bracelets by the roadsides. You will play golf and enjoy hot hors d'oeuvres. My people will have pain and degradation. Your people will have stick shifts. The gods of my tribe have spoken. They have said, do not trust the pilgrims. For all these reasons, I have decided to scalp you and burn your village to the ground. So that's the speech. So like, and so that speech, right? And it's like, no lies detected. But you're made to laugh at that and go, oh my goodness. Oh, look at this little goth girl saying all of this. What is this little goth girl doing? Saying all of these words. Oh, she's just nuts. You can't be burning all of the nice white pilgrims to the ground. It's actually interesting. Just try and play that song at your next family get together. See who makes awkward smiles. I'm trying to find the picture of the band that did that. So anyways, and so they're the indigenous group, right, made that song, "Burn Your Village to the Ground," because that "Burn Your Village to the Ground" by Hallucination took that and made it into their entire album, or not. The entire song is just like looping. It's a speech, and then it loops that line, "Burn your village to the ground, burn your village to the ground," throughout the song, because that's like actually what the United States has done, which is remove indigenous people from their, including Native Hawaiians like myself, right, from the land. Remove the children, right, from the parents. Ban the language in Hawaii. Like, Hawaiian language was banned, right? Like I often bring up. Hawaiians are the most per capita homeless people. Indigenous people are way more per capita homeless, and live in much worse living standards, with sometimes third world levels of forced underdevelopment, with boil water advisories going on for decades, right? The average white person is rich and drinking fancy drinks, wearing their Louis Vuitton, wearing their cardigans, right? Indigenous people selling bracelets by the roadside. In Hawaii, it's literally, that's all they do is play golf, right? And go to fancy buffets. So, I mean, this is like literally what has happened, right? And then you should not trust the pilgrim. Also, and not just, I mean, there's actually, I would go way further than this, but obviously there's some things that are like, anyway, I won't go into nitty gritty with that, but the important thing is, like, the whole gist of that entire speech is actually true, coming from a white goth girl, but it actually does represent like a lot of what happens in Western culture, which is that the defectors, which are often, not always, sometimes it's white dudes, but disproportionately less. Often it's women that are raised in white patriarchal, conservative, Christian upbringings, right? Like, including Holly, right? Who are like disgusted, fed up, somehow figure out how to escape, right? Being the emotional support daughter, manual labor daughter, the oppressed internal labor on the slave who, for the white man who can't afford or doesn't have access to black people. That's really what the women, the children, and especially the women in the white non-millionaire level family, the white, like, recent arrival or white aspiring American, the women in the family are the slave / peasant / serf of the rural pioneer pilgrim venture, until they get access to the right. Now nowadays they don't necessarily have black slaves on the, but the liberal, the Democrat, that's when it's not necessarily like, I don't want to get into a immigration illegal or what, but the white capitalist person, like, let's say a Nancy Pelosi or Elon or the owner of Coke Farms, does benefit from mass amounts of non-white labor coming in to do $3 an hour or less, right? Agricultural corporation labor, black slave prison labor, for every corporation uses that, right? So the people who run the big corporations have access to tons and tons of non-white people that they use as their oppressed labor. But for the average white dude who doesn't have that in somewhere in the middle of, I don't know, Alabama or somewhere in, New England, it doesn't really matter where, California, right? You might only have access, Idaho, right? You only have access to your family because you're not, for whatever reason, right? You're just not at the top of the pyramid yet. So you oppress, that's all the red Republican voters, right? Is the white dudes and all their brainwashed tradwives. But then sometimes you get one of them tradwives escapes the patriarchal subjugation and then joins in indigenous and black and non-white resistance to such systems. And so actually they're giving away the game when they do that speech. Anyways, but I think I've made that point several times. So I think that so for all those reasons, you should take a look at the original Addams Family. I don't know about the rest of it. I haven't thought about it very long, but I know that particular speech. It's just accidentally based thing that happened in 1990s. A lot of things like that happen. I don't think now the Eddie Murphy movie, Coming to America, I don't think that's an accident. And if you want to learn about that one, you can watch the recent video I did about Coming to America. That happened in the late 80s, actually, right 4 years before the Addams Family. But if you want to hear my take about Black Panther, well, mostly about Coming to America, I haven't actually seen 100% disclosure. I have not actually seen I haven't seen Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So I just put it up there because that was the thing that was out at the time. But if you do want my take on an actual movie that is actually an actually based thing intentionally, and you watch Coming to America, both of them. And I'm going to take a short break, and then we're going to finish because I got to go eat food, and then I'm going to be back. We'll talk about other fun stuff and food later on. But here's a show. So here's a game that is currently out that is about the problems of all the things we're talking about, racist, capitalist, imperialist society, in the guise of a cyberpunk adventure game, and it is on sale. So if you have been thinking about grabbing that Neofeud to support the Silver Spook Cooperative, and or just because you like cyberpunk adventure games, and if you like to try secretly the greatest and also funniest cyberpunk game on Steam, as from actual Steam reviewers, consider checking out Neofeud, and I'll be right back.
The Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You and whose army, princess? You and whose army?
All anyways, yeah, don't forget that Neofeud is on sale. It is a game that does support everything that we do here at the Silver Spook Cooperative, as well as the Silver Spook Housing Cooperative. If you have appreciated this event so far, the video so far, consider also, if you don't play games, direct support through Ko-Fi, Patreon, just liking the stream, sharing it around, sharing the video around if you're watching it later. Yeah. I think somebody said, I only want to watch the, was it Emma said, I only want to watch the Wakanda, I only want to watch the Black Panther museum speech on loop. The Killmonger speech. I mean, like, fair. The Killmonger speech is kind of like the Wednesday, burn your village to the ground speech. It's like, that's the good part. Okay, now the other part where you like make Killmonger be like, oh, that's what he said was bad because he killed his girlfriend. It's like, I don't know if we need that part. We definitely don't need the good CIA part. We don't need the doing free PR for the CIA. We don't need that part. Yeah, it's 2 hours already. Yeah, anyways, but yeah, anyways, I talked a lot about the Wednesday show so far. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to add to that. Oh, yeah, so shoot, I just had a thought and then it flew out of my head again. That's how my brain works. But so we're just talking about Hawaii and the golf courses. Since it is Indigenous Peoples Day was a couple days ago, right? So-called Thanksgiving. Oh, there was a couple things I want to touch on, but one thing I did want to bring up is that we did have recently a panel with our friends at the around the world. It was the Indigenous Thanksgiving. I might add this to the YouTube at one point, but I have not done that. I'm not gonna do it right now. But if you want to watch this panel that we recently did, Indigenous Thanksgiving, with Native, Anishinaabe, Sioux, Lakota, and Native Hawaiians, that's myself. We were talking about the so-called Thanksgiving and our history, present, and future. And so if you want to watch this panel, you can see it. There's a Twitch link, a VOD to the Twitch link. And if you want to watch it like between now and next week or sometime soon, I think I'm going to definitely, I'm probably going to add this to the list of Silver Spook panels because it was very informal. So that's one thing I will say about Indigenous peoples. I was like, hey, everybody, I'm sorry. It's like Tuesday. I want to do a panel on tomorrow, Wednesday, so that we can have something out there that's actually from Indigenous people, not just a bunch of settler colonial capitalist university sponsored BS. I mean, I don't want to have. I'm not saying that everything that happens there is, but sometimes you can get a lot of bougie nonsense. Oh, Indigenous people, we're so thankful for you. Thank you for your corn and your squash and your turkeys, and maybe some colonialism happened, but that was a long time ago. And we're certainly not going to concretely, I don't know, donate all the money that we have into your cause and stop working for the U.S. empire. Right? So the Indigenous Thanksgiving was me, and I just set it up on my channel. Me, because I'm not affiliated with any NGO organizations, educational institutions, I'm not working for any corporation. So everything is a Silver Spook independent cooperative. And I was joking. One day, me and Big Teal are gonna start the Silver Teal or Big Spook University, where we can just teach whatever we want, and we don't have to take bougie Louis Vuitton wearing, Prada sporting frickin', students walking around obnoxiously in their gold watches and shit. Anyways, the Thanksgiving, Indigenous Thanksgiving. If you want to learn you want to learn the real deal from Indigenous people's actual perspective. I had all of Lasu, several different Indigenous game devs. One of them is survivors of the 60s scoop, residential school survivors, actual people who survived their genocide. One of them, Lasu, is like his children have actually been taken, he was taken from his parents, put in an abusive foster family that almost killed him. And then his own grandkids have all been threatened, and some of them have been taken. So if you want the actual story of the continued realities for many of us, not just in multiple countries, really, all around the world. It's not just, that was an important point. Even though Thanksgiving is celebrated in the United States, people talk about indigenous people. There's a lot of discourse, and I have very strong quotes for discourse sometimes about whether people south of the United States count as indigenous people. I'm like, oh my God, this is going backwards. This is going. I do all these international panels with Asian, Vietnamese, peoples from Latin America, from Africa, from Asia Pacific, all over the world, so that we could try. I mean, not everybody's watching all the Silver Spoon panels, but then we do this like indigenous does not need to be specifically these people with this specific blood quantum inside the United States. But now we're like back to like indigenous is only these specific. Anyways. So, I mean, I don't want to get too pissed off about that right now. But the point is that, like, you can learn something about what actual indigenous people's perspectives are, right? What is the Red Deal? I recommend you read that book, which is an indigenous-led path towards actual saving the earth, saving each other, and also from an indigenous, multiple authors, but some of them are indigenous Marxists, indigenous actual leftists, or I should say some actual leftists, vastly all of them are indigenous, wrote the Red Deal, specifically is a book that I wanted to give a shout out to. They're actually starting a university. I just posted that. They're starting some kind of the Red Deal has their own classes now that they're I just posted a link to that in the Silver Spook Discord. And so if you want to learn about that, then do check out the Indigenous Thanksgiving stream that we did this Wednesday. Oh yeah, one other thing. Here, I'm just gonna put this up on the screen because I meant to talk about it, but I didn't. Oh yeah, happy Thanksgiving from homeless Native Hawaiians doing fake versions of our culture and cellophane skirts for starvation wages under ongoing U.S. genocide. This poem is called Tiki Manifesto. It's also a poem specifically about how this process. It's a poem specifically about this process of genocide and it's anti-black, it's anti-indigenous, anti-Pacific Islander, and the using of the Pacific Islands and our peoples as imperial unsinkable aircraft carriers is the term that our good friend Mr. General Douglas MacArthur used to use. But anyways, and then also what was the other thing I wanted to show? Yeah, Indigistar. Oh yeah, here's another game. Of course, if you haven't heard of Indigistar is a game that is about this process in a science fictional perspective. I might just play this trailer real quick because it actually does relate to everything we're talking about today.
Lived in peace.
So I'm just gonna play this real quick.
For eons, the indigenous Beno Ora people lived in peace on their planet, in harmony with nature and each other. Hunter-gatherers sprouted into villages. Villages begot cities, yet millennia passed without war. Over time, the Beno Ora built great civilizations while maintaining the Garden of Eden, the mother homeworld which birthed them. They blossomed up toward the stars, sailed Hokuva'a, starships, across the galactic Silk Road, trading with other peoples. Now, the unhealed descendants of Roman trauma, the Utopian Empire arrives to eradicate and plunder. The mother Aina desecrated, the relatives broken, the water of life poisoned. Kailatu, a peace officer of the cosmic tree, must heal land and people, prevent colonial erasure of native language and culture, and confront the invaders before it is too late.
So anyways, so that is Indigistar. Indigenous Star is a game about an empire arriving on your planet to eradicate and plunder, erasing your native language and culture, and you must heal the land, confront these space invaders before it is too late. So String Sam said that's your favorite. Is that your favorite song? You can actually, if you just want that song, by the way, you can get that song on the album that is the Silver Spook. Let's see, it's on the Silver Spook Bandcamp. I'm pretty sure it's on Indigenous Aloha Civilization. If you want just that song that was from that trailer, you can get it at the Silver Spook Bandcamp Indigenous Aloha Civilization album. So it's called The Wayfinders. Yeah, it's actually from a TV show that Holly and I. It was a indie TV show that Holly and I made like 1.5 episodes of. Holly's actually in it. Anyways, but in Indigenous Star, you attempt to prevent cultural genocide and self-hatred of your. I mean, speaking of Thanksgiving, right? Speaking of so-called Thanksgiving or Indigenous Peoples Day, you know, and the erasure of the differences, right? Attempt to prevent cultural genocide and self-hatred of your appearance, clothing, gender norms, collectivist ways as colonizer school brainwashes your children. So these are some of the scenes. I've played through this on some of the Twitch streams before. If you played it, you know this. But these are some of the ways in which this process happens of genocide. It's not just people. I mean, yes, historically, right? Colonizers, settlers with guns coming through and just shooting native people. That's one way. But actually, that's not often always the way. Biological warfare, bringing the smallpox blankets, bringing diseases, that was part of it. But then there's also slitting the throats of innocent women and children in the night. That was actually the preferred way. Andrew Jackson was elected president on that way. But even more than that, there's the whole entire very important process that continues to this day, the entire schooling system, right? And that's what the point. That's one of the. This game deals with in less than an hour. I try to go through as much as possible of the process of imperialism, settler colonialism, genocide, and how that connects to planetary war and Cold War and the new Cold War, but in a science fictional package. So the old ways are. So this is one of the characters who thinks they hate. This is like me, wearing the T-shirt I wore in the forced Americanization schools, right, for Native Hawaiians like me. It looked like that shirt. Always a plain white shirt, no designs, no patterns, no history, no culture, right? That's part of the Americanization, genocidal process, right? The old ways are stupid. The superstitious bullshit never got us anywhere. It's all woo-woo, talking to plants, rolling in the dirt and shit. It's the Garden of Eden. That's in this fictional culture. That's their. That's what they call the place that is their mother, the land. Right, in the land and land back, right? It is not just property to be bought and sold with maximum profit extracted from it, right? The maximum resources extracted with no care for the environment, the other animals, plants, and lesser and poorer beings, right? So this character is like being brainwashed into believing in capitalism, into believing into the superiority of the hierarchy and the lesserness of the land, plants, animals. And the disconnection and the belief that you can disconnect and extract from the earth and other beings, right? And so that's like that's part of who I am, is this person, right? Farming is so not a vibe. That's a Grimes quote as a representative of this culture. Anyways, this is your ancestry and heritage. Why do you seek to erase it? What could possibly possess you to do a horrific thing? So some of the characters in Indigenous Star have historically, we indigenous peoples had tattoos, right? Hawaiians had tattoos. Or tatau is the word in Samoan. The word tattoo is a Pacific Islander word, right? It's an Austronesian, it's a Hawaiian, Maori, Samoan word. It's slightly pronounced different in different places. But it is literally the imprinting of your ancestors, your heritage onto your body. It's not just, I'm going to get a skull and a crossbone. I'm going to get a picture of Elon Musk because I like him. I'm going to get a cool dragon. It's not just for fun. Although it's fun. It is fun to know who you are history and be connected to things that matter in the universe, and know that's also fun. But it's not just for fun, right? When you get the moko, the ta moko of the Maori people, which I don't know everything about that, but it's specifically a culture. So the cultural, speaking of European body norms, white supremacist body norms and body shaming, right? Body types, right? And then hatred, making fun of and ridiculing larger non-Euro standard Nazi bodies, basically, in a lot of ways, or Nazi desired bodies, we should say. The Hawaiian Pacific bodies also include the printing of art. It also includes indigenous Luchuan or Okinawan people. They have their own culture, has their own way of printing that on the hands and on the fingers, which our friend Akemi can attest to. Hajichi is the name for the traditional hand tattooing. So the art on the body was actually part of their culture. That is part of remembering and keeping track of, not keeping track, but remembering and being with the ancestors and the history and the culture of your people, right? That was not ugly. The ugliness and you are a criminal if you have tattoos. You're doing drugs and you're a criminal, and that's unprofessional, is part of the white supremacy. It's so deep you don't even recognize it, right? I didn't even recognize it. If you asked me when I was 20, is it okay to have face tattoos? I'll be like, that's just weird and bad, and that's probably for criminals or people who only work in tattoo parlors that are also criminals, or goths, right? Again, linking all that up. So anyway, so in Digistar, the characters, no, they're not human. It's part of the science fiction world, but their culture is like that. They have tattoos on their exoskeletons, on their exterior surfaces. They wear their history. They wear who they are in their clothes, as we did, right? And as we still do, some of us, like Kaleko Ka'eo, and they get arrested for being Hawaiian, speaking Hawaiian in a court of law in 2018. A Native Hawaiian was arrested for speaking Hawaiian in Hawaii, by the way. This is your ancestry and your heritage, and you seek to erase it. Why would you want to do such a thing? This one indigenous person is asking the other one that has gone to Western colonizer school, right? Oh my goodness, this school has laid waste to our children's minds. So that's literally what happened to my mind, right? I had the culture genocided out of me by a public school. I went to public, private, charter, all the schools, all Western schools, American, public. It doesn't matter. And the teachers are not evil. They're just following the curriculum, right? And if they deviate from it, then they can actually lose their job and go to prison. That's the bans on critical race theory and on 1619. And anything more radical than that, you're definitely not going to be teaching. I don't know what you're talking about. We're just backward Indians till the Western galaxy brought roads and electricity and stuff. Come on, that's all common sense. Everyone learns that in school. So what you don't learn is that, like in Hawaii, we actually had more advanced roads. We had mass transit, railroads, ferries, trolleys, everything. People are like, I've seen white, wealthy scientists and engineers in U.S. and Europe wishing they had trolleys. We already had that mass affordable transit, even inter-island using the ferry system. All that stuff. We had electricity before the White House. All this stuff was already here. Right, and in this world, the indigenous people are far in advance of the Western culture. It is only the mass erasure and mass lying through the school system, among other things, the news media, also history system, the academia that siphons out and makes sure that only the white privileged male perspective and ultimately the empire's perspective under racist imperial capitalism is finally given out at the government level, at the mass information and educational level. Despite how many people of color and non-white dudes work in academia, you ask people actually still in there. I was listening to the Black Power Media podcast about what it's like to be black in academia in 2022, which is that it's run by a bunch of white guys. Your smog belching machines that run on liquefied hydrocarbon. Anyway, so deal with snobbish imperialists who spent $800 billion on warships, attempting to blow you up and plunder primitive fossil fuel rather than feed and house their own people and modernize with infinite clean energy. So in this world, you also have the Western imperialists, because that's part of what it is to be indigenous is to be a platform for Western imperialism or to be blown up by them, right? For like as for example, people indigenous to Asia, like the Vietnamese or the Korean or the Afghan people or the people of Iraq. Those people are indigenous to those places, by the way. Did you know that? But nobody can recognize that indigenous Guarani are indigenous to Bolivia. So nobody's prepared for that discussion, are they? Your smog belching machines that run on liquefied hydrocarbons are of no use to us. We can produce artificial suns at the snap of our fingertips, provide infinite clean energy. So this is actually a scene from the game where, which is true. Actually, in fact, there are indigenous people that have more advanced fusion energy than the United States or any Western country. It's a country that starts with a C. I'll give you a free hint. Let me handle this, Sergeant. So I have Justin Trudeau hybridized with Elon and with drinking the blood of virgins with Tom Cruise, and that's the imperialist representative from the Western Empire. The colonial capitalist powers of the Milky Way were quite strong ones, but your own allies are turning on you as they run out of new Terra Nullius to plunder, and our win-win communist network expands from Sagittarius to Orion. So this game does deal with like international multi-thousand year, it's really multi-hundred or multi-thousand year colonizer versus indigenous, colonizer versus colonized, supremacist imperialist versus win-win cooperative, financial oligarchy backed by fascist foot soldier, Roman imperialism, Roman Empire versus again win-win cooperative, plurinational, multi-ethnic, multi-language, multicultural federations and networks, Silk Roads, you might say, but expanding and then later under formalized capitalism against communism fights in the 19th and 20th and 21st century. And so this is all from Neofeud 2, by the way. This is all lore and characters in Neofeud 2. Hey, the rules-based interstellar order doesn't commit war crimes. We were merely supporting the human rights and self-determination of the Venoran indigenous separatists from an authoritarian regime. So this is Ukraine and Taiwan. This is Western imperialism weaponizing mass disinformation. So this is like if you're in the West, you can't even. This is like you can't even see this fishbowl you're swimming in. But the international world understands this, right? The global South, the people who have been in this fight for this amount of time, everything you think that you know inside the matrix of the United States, Europe, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, as somebody still within and privileged or buying into it, or forced into it, or still ignorant of it for whatever reason. You can't even see what's happening. But what's happening is all around the world, new America, new Hawaiian occupations are constantly, there's a constant fight, like a cancer versus the bodily tissue, of trying to install artificial schooling, like NGO-based mass youth movements by manipulating the educational systems of places like Taiwan, Thailand, Philippines, Ukraine, under a U.S.-backed far-right regime, separate against the against not necessarily all communists, but anti-hegemonic, anti-imperialist, multipolar world, and especially countries with communist parties and socialist policies like China, Vietnam, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, Libya, until the U.S. blew it up, right? But you can't even see that the weaponization of all systems, including the schooling system, education system, media, entertainment, pop culture, music, right? I really want to talk to some of the Black Power media someday, because I was like listening to what they're saying. Like, I'm not saying that Black Panther is a bad movie in terms of the screenwriting, the acting, the special effects. Is it entertaining or not? I want to talk about the politics in it, and I'm like, yeah, no, everything I do is that, right? That's all I ever do on the stream. Because it is every vector. There is, full spectrum dominance requires mass control in every sphere of existence. That's entertainment, that's movies, that's music, everything is hyper. The most political things are entertainment because they're so good, right? The gaming world is one of the front lines of warfare. It is like, because gaming is what got a lot of the far right. It's what gets all the kids in the military. It's number one recruiter, right? So it's like, but you can't even see that that's what you're in when you're inside the United States, and when you only talk to people inside the West. Sadly, most people, the other parts of the world, they don't always speak English, so it can be difficult. But when you somehow figure out how to exit that, at least mentally, be able to hear and be in spaces outside of the Western world, the Western capitalist imperialist world, then you start to see that, like, indigenous people at a certain level, even inside of like Arkansas, or sitting in next to a rusty old truck in the middle of Oklahoma, you might not be as connected with the entire global world as much as some other people are, but intuitively you understand that you are, even though you're in the middle, you're thousands of miles from the borders of the United States, but you are outside of it by a long mile because of your own experiences. And so that's where those are important connections that have to be made between outside the external regions outside of the racist capitalist imperialist world, and then the things, and then the people's inside that are they're geographically inside the United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, but they are, like, in terms of lived experience and in terms of socio-economic and political, they are outside. Those are indigenous people, and to a large extent, of course, the black community, because that's anyway. So for historical reasons, anyways, convince soldiers fighting for imperialist militaries to stop crushing your native people by providing for their material needs and allowing them to fight on the right side of history. And Indigestar. So Indigestar is, again, it's not the most graphically amazing game I've ever made, but I just want to point out that what is going on in the game is the stuff that I talk about on these streams, and it is directly, I do not mince words when it comes to the U.S. and the Western Empire. You can tell by all the flags and all the crosses and all the NATO coded imagery on the sides of buildings. Ain't no jobs that pay a living wage in Utopia. My mama's medical bills are through the roof. The military said they would forgive the $100K in debt, pay me enough to get an apartment for me and her to live in. I can't just let her die. So part of the game is you have to convince. It's not America, it's Utopia, but it's the Western imperialist military, most of whom are brainwashed like I was, right, as a native hawaiian, but they're American people, black, white, brown, are also brainwashed to believe that they're fighting on freedom and democracy and the side of human rights, and then they are told and recruited through video games, like when they're playing Call of Duty esports, and then the SEAL Team 6 recruiter or the Marines veteran is in their ear saying, "Hey, you like killing people in Battlefield 2042? Guess what? You can be really valorous, get a good college education, make a living, and not starve to death in your shitty ass American hellhole." Because most people are impoverished. Actually, it's like about 50-60% of the military is poor people, disproportionately non-white, who can't afford their material conditions, and the military just sucks them in like a vacuum cleaner, and it turns them into stormtroopers. And then a good 50 to 30% approximately are just rich white boys from suburbia who want to kill some black and brown people, and they want to they're also brainwashed, but they're also luxuriate in the idea that they are better than the people they're killing. Like American Sniper, a celebrated American movie promoted by Clint Eastwood, who also liked killing indigenous people on screen as a cowboy for the United States Empire. Anyways, so I could go on this forever, but you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, that's Indigestar, because I feel like this game has not done as well as I would have liked, but I think part of it is it doesn't really I didn't have time to make it look as good as I wanted it to. But Neofeud 2 is the characters in the world of Indigestar is also the characters in the world of Neofeud 2. It's in the same universe. Anyways, wait, Western civilization is. I want to bring this up real quick though. Speaking of, this is gonna be the last little bit. Western. So this is Jesse Kelly. You might remember Jesse Kelly. He is a person who said, "We don't need a bunch of soft, weak, dudes dressing up in skirts in our military. The United States needs type A strong men who want to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls." Remember that guy? That's this guy. And this guy is so he said today, somebody else, eco terrorists from the climate cult Last Generation have shut down Berlin's airport. They are reportedly flying. So basically, young people were basically, and a lot of them are climate scientists who just know some truth about the realities of mass biodiversity loss, complete collapse of the planet's ecology. I mean, this is just like facts, right? And they're like they're going to more measures to try to bring attention and try to do whatever they can to try to stop this process. Anyways, and so Jesse Kelly commented, Western civilization simply lacks the will to save itself from the communist hordes. It's really that simple. All these climate death cult protests would stop overnight if one round of 10-year prison sentences overnight. And so, I find interesting about this, right? What I found interesting about this, right, is that this guy says this statement, but he ties Western civilization, right, in a certain sense, to capitalism. So I said, wait. Western civilization is fundamentally, irrevocably capitalist. Oh, that's more of an for the West, buddy. Because what he's saying, right, is that like, communism is the opposite, right? The communist hordes. Remember that? It's like the song, right? I had the Go Into Hell. Speaking of, see, this is all, I'm trying to figure out how to advertise my stuff more better. Speak English more better. That's Hawaiian Creole. But I literally talk about the hordes, but it's a joke. It's like the Russian hordes coming from the east, Asia, Afro-Asiatic, right? Like legions and all these orcs and goblins and trolls, all these legions and hordes and huge dark armies coming from Africa and Asia, all coming into your beautiful little Europe, right? But that's the same imagery. I mean, that's just deep Westernism. You know what I'm saying? It's like pre the witch hunt of Salem. This was already there. The orcs were there before. The witches were there in Europe, right? A lot of the times they were Jewish. They were the Romani. They were people deemed not European enough, or not whatever that particular people were enough. They're not Roman enough, that was, there's a Roman culture very much, so long story short, when this guy says Western civilization, right, must stop the communist hordes, he is saying, right, Western civilization is capitalism. Right? It is capitalism. And if communism comes through, that is the end of Western civilization. Right? But then extrapolate, right? So if climate change, even Greta Thunberg, who is like not the most base person on the planet, but it's like we have to get rid of capitalism or we can't even save this entire planet. If the infinite extractive processes if the continued process of resource consumption, pollution, that is like a freight train running off a cliff, right? That is capitalism. If capitalism has to die in order for the planet to live, for anyone to have a planet to live on, right? And you're saying that Western civilization is fundamentally capitalist. By extension, what you are saying, right, is that the West has to be destroyed for the planet to live. I don't know if this guy realized what he's saying there. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that. That's what he said. What you're saying is that Western civilization has to completely collapse and be eradicated from this earth for the earth to survive. I mean, that's a very strong stance you have there, man. Accidentally based stance. I'm just saying, like, you might not want to say that out. You might not want to say that out loud. Don't say that too loud, buddy, because even your own children, they might be like, I'm over this West. Then I'm over the United States, Canada. What is even Britain? What is this? This is like a Roman colony that somehow blew up into a planet eating, opium smuggling liar's den full of mediocre white dudes sipping their tea, somewhere in Windsor and the top floor of the city of London skyscrapers, right? And people be like, fuck this. I'm over the UK. I'm over this Anglo-Saxon AUKUS. What is this AUKUS? You might not want to say that too loud, buddy, because the children know that the capitalism and the planet's ecology and climate can't coexist. And I think children might want to have a planet to live on. So if you say that the Western civilization is capitalism, children might all turn communist and just like, I don't eat you. I don't know. So, anyways, okay. But one more thing I want to point out. But speaking of this, I do think, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody that's white or Westerner has to just like vaporize, but this is just like the history of what has been in Europe. That is true. Like it's been full of, there has been capitalism at least for 2,000 plus years. If you look very closely, right, in the sense of there have been uncontrolled, wealthy powers, sometimes feudalists, formally in the 16, 1400s, etc. in Europe, but there have always been financial oligarchies, plutocracies of powerful entities, right? Whether they were kings, slave masters, colonial emperors, colonial rulers, generals, the financial backers behind them, the banks, throughout the United States, Britain, Canada, Spain, the feudal era. They still had money and they had power. It was even more tied together, and it wasn't expanding out beyond Europe in much of the feudal era of Europe. But it never really went away. The Roman Empire had huge financial oligarchies controlling the masses of the people without the say of the masses of the people. And it is always, even when there was quote unquote democracies, it's always been democracies for a tiny subset of people that have always been manipulated by the wealthy elites, the Roman Senate, the people behind the Roman Senate, the financial oligarchies of Greece and Rome. So the West, Western civilization is fundamentally win-lose capitalistic, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean it forever must be, and that doesn't mean like everybody just has to go away. But when you say things like the West is capitalism, and if communism, if non-capitalism takes over, that's the end of the West. We have to fight to the last man for Western civilization. What you are saying is the entire Western world has to completely be obliterated. That's what you're saying. I don't actually believe that. Everybody has to. I think people can change. But if when you kind of push everyone into a corner, well, we have to kill all the any socialist, any communist, anyone that doesn't want to do anything but capitalism has to be stopped. Like it's an army, and we're the other army. You're putting yourself at the edge of a cliff that you're going to be pushed off. I mean, you're putting yourself there, buddy. I mean, tell me I'm wrong, because I don't think I am. But I mean, hey, General MacArthur is turning in his grave. So just one more quick one, because specifically recently, just another quick update. And I'm going to end because it's 2:00. Taiwan's president Tsai Ing-wen. I talked a lot about her. I have entire threads just about Hawaii, Taiwan, the connections, and the using of Taiwan as a proxy war candidate against China. Speaking of communism, Taiwan's president Tsai Ing-wen stepped down as the head of her ruling party just today, after it suffered defeat in Saturday's local elections, while Beijing-friendly main opposition held its ground. So I think it's a Democratic Progressive Party. That's what they do. When you hear Democratic Progressive, Democratic Socialist, Progressive, the Democrats Democracy Party, the DDD, really the more democratics you hear in a party in the world, really, but certainly in Asia, Latin America, a lot of parts of Europe, the more Democrat, the Democrat Democracy, Democrat Freedom Progress Democracy Party is probably the U.S.-backed party that's not actually very democratic, probably more far right and more right wing, and is certainly going to be doing whatever the U.S. imperialist, racist, authoritarians want. And that was her party, Tsai Ing-wen. She actually called Donald Trump personally and congratulated him and cried when Donald Trump lost. Did you know that? So she's actually the Republican Party in the United States, Tsai Ing-wen. But they call it the Democratic People's Progressive, very democratic party, so that when white people in the West who don't know shit about anything outside of, like, I don't know, the Warren, not, I was gonna say Warren Beatty. They don't know shit outside of, what's hot on Twitter the next 5 seconds. When they read about the party in Asia, Latin America, Africa, around the world, and they hear, Democrat, that's the good party because it's democratic. That sounds really good. That's why they call it the rules-based order. Why the fuck do you think they? But nobody has the capacity to think beyond their fucking New York Times or fucking CNN or Fox article. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the Democratic Progressive Party favored Taiwan independence, while KMT favors one China, its own definition of it. So quite meaningful. So, long story short, Nancy Pelosi visited, and $6 million was transferred from the Pelosi's to Tsai Ing-wen in just as one U.S. based neocon, Project for New American Century bribery scheme. But but she was the preferred party. She was the preferred candidate in the preferred party for the U.S. imperial interest to start proxy war with China to cause economic damage and break up the win-win multipolar world that is enabling the building of global socialism and saving of our entire goddamn motherfucking planet. So the fact that she lost is a blow to the United States. It's very bad for the United States, which suggests that Taiwan does not want to become the Ukraine. I talk about I just tweeted. I've been talking about this a lot, but Taiwan does not want to be the Ukraine of the East edge of the U.S. fists punching in towards the anti-imperial, multipolar, counter-hegemonic bloc. That is Russia, China, the BRICS countries. Right? Not every single one of them is socialist, to be clear, but many of them are former colonies of Western imperialism and colonialism, and they don't want to be ruled by the United States, right? And they certainly don't want to be destroyed and disrupted and forced back into 1800 style colonialism. And so they are, and so Taiwan does not sees what has happened to Ukraine. Millions of people displaced, dying, freezing, starving, being destroyed for U.S. interests. If you anybody, they're looking at Europe and they're going, the East is Philippines. Kamala just visited there. They want to use the Philippines. They want to, if they could, Kamala and the United States Empire wanted to use the Vietnam. Vietnam said, "Fuck you." Vietnam is too base to be used as a proxy against the spread of communism again. Right? They're over that. That's why they have their 4 rules: no military alliances. We will not side with any side in war. We do not allow foreign military bases on our territory. Very smart, because they don't want to be Ukrainified. They don't want to be Korea-ified. They don't want to be Vietnamified again. They don't want to be Afghanistanified. They don't want to be Syria-ified. They don't want to be turned into a place that wrecks their entire country for the purposes of Western imperialism. So, long story short, so the one China policy. So when Tsai Ing-wen loses, this is actually very good news for the rest of the people of the earth. The earth itself, that is our mother, and it's very bad news for people who say shit like Western civilization needs to stop communist hordes, because I'm sorry, you're losing right now, buddy. And I said, General Douglas MacArthur is turning in his grave right now. How did you lose our unsinkable aircraft carrier? How will we proxy war them pinko commies? Now, Hawaii is also a giant unsinkable Death Star. Taiwan is an aircraft carrier. Guam is an aircraft carrier, right? To project power into the Asia Pacific region, which is the majority of the earth. When U.S. General Douglas MacArthur referred to Taiwan as an unsinkable aircraft carrier, he was trumpeting the offensive nature of the strategies used to contain communism during the Cold War. The U.S. containment policy in Asia tended to wall off. So again, if people want to go this route, it's Cold War. It is the Cold War. The United States is making it the Cold War. The Cold War never really ended. They just reinitiating it. Now it's the freeze to death if you're European war. Not really the Cold War. It's the freeze and starve to death with no Nord Stream if you're a European that's being successfully puppeted into the new Cold War. That's not actually that cold. The Cold War was never cold. It was hot in Korea, Vietnam, etc. I want to drop that distinction, because then you start to, if you're paying attention in the West, you might start to see the edges of an actually true story for the first time in your life, right? You have always been against communism, which means you have always been against the earth, which means you have always been against indigenous people who have actually practiced communism, actually practiced the collective win-win cooperation with each other. Actually practice peace as a verb, as a way of existing. Actually practice environmentalism. Actually practice. This is who you have always been. But the U.S.'s job is to make you very, very blind and very, very distracted and very, very confused. That's the purpose of its entire education system, everything it ever does from the highest levels is to make as many people as possible confused and believing a fairy tale fictional story, what Voltaire called Western illusory Christian historiography. Doesn't necessarily have to have the Christian formally in it anymore, even though it is Christian-ish in the sense of it is win-lose, right? But hopefully people will start to see that, and that's my Silver Spook DEFCON 10 bit. But that should be the end of the stream because it's already 2. I will go to China for 2 months next month, so I will escape her. Wait, Emma's going. Have a good time in China, Emma. I'm sure you have a much better time. Emma, I would like to hear, what is it like to be non-white? If you correct me, I believe you're black, unless I'm misspeaking, right? What is it like to share the tale? What it's like, the differences of being non-white in the U.S. and being black in the U.S. and then being black in China? Because a lot of people, like I think Big Teal was saying, a lot of people that Big Teal, or at least some people that Big Teal knows, they went to China, they never came back. They're like, what the hell am I going back there for? Why am I going back to that cesspool, racist garbage scape that is the United States? How you get your stay? Anyways, so I do want to, and this is not anything to do with Wednesday already, so I'm like way off the topic, but that's how it goes. You put it in the last 2 hours. You put it in the last 30 minutes. You put it in the last 30 minutes. The CIA is like, oh man, I can't be watching the Silver Spook stream for 3 hours, man. I'm done at 1 hour 45. That's why I put it at the very end. And they're like, the CIA is like, oh wait, our right-wing Nazis that work for us, the CIA, are trying to get us banned off of Twitter. What the hell? So they're getting distracted by that. So they don't have time to watch my stream. Anyway, so yeah, so that's that. And now, don't forget everything that we do here. Oh, so anyway, long story short, watch Wednesday's good show. Watch the Addams Family 1993, especially the speech that Christina Ricci gives during the play of Pocahontas and Distrust Them Pilgrims, man. That's what I said, Distrust the Pilgrim. They tell you a bunch of bullshit stories. Whether it's they're going to help you out, Thanksgiving is a bullshit story, but everything is a bullshit story, including most of their movies, films, and all of the fiction and nonfiction. So, Distrust the Pilgrims. That's the final message. Yeah, everybody's talking about they're gonna be going to China. So have a good stay, have a good trip. Anyways, watch this show. We gotta go. We'll be back later on. I'm gonna show you quick preview for later. I will be showing I will show a whole entire video series of pictures of what we did in what I did last summer. No, what I did for Thanksgiving. I have all these really cool pictures of the and you can join the Silver Spook Discord when you become a patron at any level. So consider becoming a Patreon patron. I give lots of more insight. There's lots of cool people. All the best people. Only the coolest, most base people in the universe hang out inside of the Silver Spook Discord. But I'm going to show some of this is just a little quick sneak peek. I'm going to show a little bit about the garden. Talk about the pluricrop indigenous style agriculture that I'm trying to restore. Most of this garden is decolonized. Almost all of the colonizer monocrop grass is gone. So I'll be talking about that and Thanksgiving stuff and food and fun stuff and other stuff related to that later on when I come back for the evening Twitch stream thing. Neofeud is a game that supports everything that we do here. As always, it is a game. Well, thanks a lot, Emma. Chinese came to Jamaica, time to go to China. Well, there you go, Big Teal. There you go. That's actual cultural exchange, not cultural genocide. Neofeud is a game that supports everything we do here. It is a dystopic cyberpunk adventure game in the vein of Blade Runner with an overlay of Game of Thrones political intrigue. It is a cyberpunk adventure game. It's a I almost said cyber goth, but I don't have pink and cyan tentacle hair, so I I can't say that. I think it's a cyberpunk game made by a goth indigenous person. That's true. So Neofeud does that. Also, you can if you can leave even a very short review, it helps us out when the algorithm is thinking about what games to show people. Everything's on sale, so remember, now's a good time to grab Neofeud. It's like Detroit Become Human, but not made by some white guy pretending to know what the civil rights movement was about. It's like Disco Elysia with more cyberpunk characteristics. It's like Stray, but without a cat protagonist. And also, Neofeud is also on other platforms, such as Neofeud is also on other platforms such as itch.io, where you can get it with the maximum revenue coming to us. Also, you get it on sale. Help us reach our $600 Neofeud goal, and that'll help out a lot. Thanks to whoever followed me. Also, when you get it on itch, you can get it for Windows, Mac, and also for Linux. Also, you can get things like Digistar. Digistar is the game that I showed the trailer of earlier, and I talked a little bit about the inside of, so hopefully that was help people to understand what that game is about, because I know the screenshots don't necessarily tell you everything. Also, Digistar is on sale there, and it is a game it's a science fictional game made by indigenous people, myself, and it's about our struggles in this current world in a science fictional package. Also, Pigeon with Gun is an action comedy game where you fight giant robot gajillionaires, bougie gentrifying F-16 pilots, heart-stealing Valentine card liberal politicians, and tons of corporate-owned police officers, and you get to be a pigeon with a gun. And so anyways, that's Pigeon with Gun. And then of course there is obviously how do we miss Decolonizer? So if you're like Silver Spook, I don't want to talk about anything anymore. I just want to go and this guy's talking about freaking communist hordes and stuff. Well, what if the communists are like, kick your ass, man? Well, you can play Decolonizers when communists actually beat the crap out of capitalists and colonizers at the same time, because they were the same people, and they always have been. You can play Luna Oi. You can play as the protagonist of our Vietnamese comrade, Luna Oi, who voices the character Tanka Kong, who beats the crap out of U.S. imperialists and General Douglas MacArthur's buddies. And you also get a tank. So if you ever wanted to do that, consider checking out Decolonizer. You ever I'm so mad. There's so many racist idiots on the internet today. I just gotta blow off some steam. Just Decolonizer, fire up Decolonizers. Just blow away 200 freaking racist capitalist shitheads, and then liberate Vietnam under communism. You know what I'm saying? De-Westernize Vietnam. Anyways, Woman is a book that is written by Holly, who is my partner, who was raised, as I said, right? It's talking about conservative, right-wing, evangelical Christianity, and it is it's a book that's about kind of like the story of the Bible, but it is told through the eyes of Mary in the Bible from the woman's perspective. And so it is kind of a critique of all of those things, including Jordan B. Peterson and his sort of ilk. And you can check this book out and get it for free on the itch site, or you can also throw us some money when you pick it up. Also, you can do things like get the support us on Patreon at patreon.com. I already said, if you really want to help us out, you can help us out by becoming a Patreon. Consider how much this value the entertainment education is worth. We can't keep doing this without the support of our viewers and audience and people who enjoy. Somebody said, Silver Spook, when are you going to start Silver Spook University? I would sign up for the classes immediately. And I say, Silver Spook University is all of the streams I do. I could try to organize classes and stuff. And I was like, shoot, if I charge 20 people $100 a month, that's $2,000 a month. That would be great. If I had $2,000 Patreon, I could spend even more time once I finish Neofeud 2 organizing formal classes on decolonization, indigenous history, Asia Pacific region struggles, anti-capitalism, dealing with sexism, racism, patriarchy. I could be like Hawaiian ideas of LGBTQ plus, gendered, etc. I don't have the time to do all that, So what I do is I can take the amount of time I have. But if I didn't have to worry about figuring out all the ways to make money, so that we can like exist and have our food, housing, electricity, roof above our head, all that kind of stuff, then there would be a more formal Silver Spook University. So consider becoming a Patreon and help us out with that. Big Deal says, I gotta pay attention to what Big Deal says. But anyways, because Big Deal does teach, as I said. Anyways, I'm sorry if you don't spread all that information about, but Big Deal, I have enough students. I don't need any more students. I got too many Louis Vuitton students. Anyways, Colonialism is Going to Hell is an album that you can get. If you're like Silver Spook, I just want to listen to music. I want to listen to some metal, goth music that's like metal music that's just about fuck colonizers, man. Fuck colonialism. I hate this shit. Freaking genocide doing ass motherfuckers all over my goddamn territory. They're all over the place. Keep, telling me to shut up and be civil. I'm like, fuck these people. This is the album for you. No album goes harder than this album that I shouldn't say that. I'm sure there is something, but as far as I know, this album goes pretty hard. So this album goes so hard that it scares away lots of white people. They don't want to touch this album. People who bought the other Silver Spook albums, they don't want to touch this one. Anyways. I know this because some of my black friends were like, and also indigenous friends were like, Silver Spook, I told them about colonialism, and they said, I would pick up indigenous civilization. I'm here for. I'm not saying that these albums don't go hard, but they're not pointed. I will talk about cyberpunk, not cyberbougie, but when it comes to this one, man, I can't listen to songs about white people being roasted and eaten like tenderloin. I mean, it's a joke. Come on, man. This is just jokes. Just like all you freaking fascists used to say. It's just jokes when we say the N-word. Well, it's just jokes when a bunch of black and brown and non-white people are all represented as the demons that you made us, and then we come and roast, burn all of your DC and all of your Wall Street, and all of your white people are all cooked over the fire, and all the cops are like little pigs in a blanket being eaten by demons. I mean, it's demons. It's just demons, man. Don't you play Doom and shit? Shut the fuck up. Anyway, so I'll stop going off about that. I'm sorry. I'm scaring the fragile white people watching this. That you should have been gone though. Should have been scared when I said China. So let's see. Oh yeah, I'm like all distracted now. You can also support us through with direct donations if you want to support what we're doing here. So consider that as well. Thanks a lot to all people who continue to support us through direct support. You can follow at Silverspook Games at Octodon.social, at Silverspook Games at Mastodon.social. Everybody's moving to Mastodon. Dude, I was on Mastodon 5 years ago. 6 years ago. 2023, I will have been on Mastodon 6 years. All y'all is too late. You freaking out because Elon is getting uppity. Elon is getting all banny. He's picking out his ban hammer. You way too late. I was on this thing for like 5 years or 6 years. So, but if for all y'all latecomers, behind the curve motherfuckers, at Silverspook Games at Octodon.social, at Silverspook Games at Mastodon.social. Anyways, but I should have saved some of this more for the Twitch room. Anyways, but doesn't Silverspook at Silverspook Guy on Twitter. If you want to follow me while I still have an account. If the fascists and the Elon's friends, the fascists have their way that Elon's talking to, like I know, I might not be on Twitter. So you might want to follow me on Mastodon because I'm on the list of people that they want to get rid of. So I'm not gonna deactivate my account now. Don't fuck you. I'm not gonna fuck those people. You can follow at Silverspook Guy. You can also follow at Silverspook Games minus the E and silver for the games related stuff. And you can follow Silverspook on Instagram, Silverspook Games on Facebook. if you are people that are into cyberpunk stuff like cyberpunk adventure game, cyberpunk RPGs, Terminus Cyberstar is a low-poly cyberpunk immersive sim like late 90s PC games like Deus Ex, System Shock. It's also like Cyberpunk 2077. And this game is nearly completed with the exception of the art and with the exception of the art optimization and testing. I am the lead writer / content director on this game, so it has a Silver Spook sensibilities about it. So if you like that, then check this out. Also, that's what I'm gonna do. I gotta talk about my Neofeud, and I'm gonna talk about the prequel. I'm sorry, the original game, which this is a sequel to, Terminus Machina. I keep saying I'm gonna do that, so I'm gonna show some of that later on today. But if you want to follow this game at Terminus C, you can join the Discord. The producer of this game is also black and of indigenous heritage as well. So I mean that doesn't necessarily mean the game is the best game in the world, but I mean I think that this person specifically reached out to me specifically because of the other game I made, and because of the topics that come up in it. So you know, if you're like, I'm only gonna play games made with black leadership, this is one of them. So anyways, that is Terminus Cyberstar. Also, you can follow. I already did everything. Oh yeah, sorry. Holly, you can also follow. Holly, you can also follow. That's what I just said. Holly, you can also follow. I don't know why I said that. Doesn't make any sense. At the Tech Fairy, Holly Aldrin at the Tech Fairy. Holly's mod voice actor and partner here at the Silver Spook, and also Holly is the producer, writer, and moderator for Zan Attack. The Lounge is coming soon. The winter special, generic winter holiday, coming very soon. 12/20 and 12/23, December 20th, 23rd. There'll be several. There'll be other events in between there on some of the Tuesdays in between there. So keep an eye out for that. And Holly is also writer, educator here, primary caregiver, parent, and also the administrator here, tweeting important stuff like that. And also, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, you can get Holly's books, like I said, at that link there. And anyways, so long story short, you know, I think Addams Family is pretty good. I have not finished. I think that Wednesday the show is pretty good. Have not finished it, but do check it out. See you guys. See some. Oh, sorry, Patreon patrons. Thanks to all these people on the list for your very generous continued support. Thanks to Big Teal and Strin and Emma and everyone else for dropping in there. And thanks to, of course, as always, to Holly for moderating. Well, all this support, we can't do what we... Just in case you're worried, oh my god, is Silver Spook going to come to my house and eat me? I'm not going to come to your house with a scary a goth person, or, you know, Holly is not quite as... I think Wednesday's a bit scarier, but I'm not going to come to your house and eat you, okay? Jesus, man. It's like, just jokes, you know? I mean, like, you know, but I mean, like, you gotta stop being capitalist, though. That's not cool. You gotta stop doing genocide. That's not cool. Not acceptable. You know what I'm saying? Because I saw some people like, I was like, oh my god, everybody, did I scare everybody when I said that's what's gonna happen? No. I know a bunch of people left the stream, but it's okay. I promise. Hawaiians did eat Captain Cook. Okay. I mean, but there's the long story, but it was ceremonial. But long story short, we're not just gonna come and eat all of those people. You just gotta be cool, you know. It's gotta like stop killing, hurting us, and burning the planet. All right. Okay, see you guys all later, and thanks a lot, Patreon patrons, and we will be back at around